Meeting to order of the School Administrative Unit Number 12 School Board and the Londonderry School District School Board. Michael, would you like to lead us in the pledge, this being your last meeting?
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Questions and announcements. First thing I have is a little gift from Michael. This is his last meeting, and he will introduce his new student council representative. Michael, the board appreciates your work for the year and the effort, and you've made it entertaining. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Do you want me to switch off now?
No, introduce. Yes.
I hope you can hear that. Yeah. All right, so I just want to say thank you to everyone before I actually introduce the person who you can see right next to me. It was a good year, and yeah, like the first few meetings, I don't know if you really remember that well, but I was really shy. It was like amazingly weird. And I had a great time, you know. I sat in the first meeting. It was actually the breathalyzer meeting, which went to like 11. I think it was like the second reading, and you guys postponed that, and I was like, oh my God, come on. It was driving me nuts. I was like, you just debated for 3 hours, but you know, it was cool. I got to come back and see the rest of it and see that go through, and it was pretty neat, you know. I had a good time, and Londonderry's been good to me, and I'm just glad that, you know, I was able to be the student rep and was elected. And now I have the new student rep. Her name is Lisa Detweiler. She was the former student council publicist. I'm sure she could tell you about that if you want. She's also in the chorus. She's a junior, so she'll be a rising senior. And she's a member of the Triumph Music Honor Society, which just started this year, actually. I don't know if I ever... Last year, my bad. I was in that, too. I was like, ah. Anyways. Yeah, so here's Lisa Detweiler. Thank you.
Lisa, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, I'm Lisa, and I'm going to be a senior, and I'm really excited, and I'm going to have big shoes to fill. I'm not sure if I make as many good jokes as Mike, but I'm really excited. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you. Questions and announcements from the board? From the audience? Seeing none, our meeting schedule is, our next meeting is on June 5th at 7 o'clock in this room, and then we have a joint meeting on June 12th at 7 o'clock in the Londonderry High School Band Room with the Town Council and the Budget Committee. We have a meeting on June 19th and a meeting on July 24th. Those meetings are at 7 o'clock at the town offices. May I have a motion on the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Comments? In the consent agenda tonight, we have another retirement of a long-standing teacher in the district, Marilyn Iosu. She has been teaching in the district for over 20 years at South School. She has been a first and second and third grade teacher. She earned her degree in 1974 from Richmond College and a master's from St. John's University. She's been described as a proficient, distinguished in every respect of her teaching, a strong advocate for her students, ensuring all their needs were met. She made an excellent use of cross-grade level connections with the fifth grade book buddies to enhance the curriculum and social cultures in the building. Her retirement is going to leave a great void in the first grade team at South School. This year we've had a lot of teachers leaving South School, and we're seeing the population kind of going through. It's great that they're retiring and they're moving on to the next phase of their life, but the district is a little sadder, and they're going to miss all these teachers that we're losing there because it was the core of the building for so many years. So we wish her well in retirement and hope she enjoys it.
And also retiring is Barbara Dion, and she's been an employee here since 1978, so that's a good long time. She started out as a special ed assistant at Matthew Thornton, and then in 1982 she transferred to the high school, where she worked in the Industrial Arts Department as a secretary. And from there, she went on to be a secretary to the assistant principal at Boyle. And then she moved over to the guidance department as an office assistant. Barbara's brought efficiency and caring to each of the positions and has spent many years serving the children here in Londonderry. She will be missed, and we do wish her many, many happy years in retirement. So good luck, Barbara.
Committee reports? Mike? Oh, I'm sorry, thank you. Motion, we have a motion and a second on the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Abstain.
Abstain?
I wasn't here May 1st, so I don't want to approve the minutes.
So that's 401, with George abstaining. Committee reports? Michael?
Hope I don't break this. Like, not over here usually. Well, student council had its class elections, or not really class elections. It's more like student council elections. But now they have, I think it was only 2 seniors who were on there. Most of the rest of the board were juniors rising. I think anybody who was on the board was actually reelected to the same or a different position. So that's good for them. Apparently they did a good job. There's a couple new people. I don't remember them off the top of my head. I don't really know them that well.
Chris Janito and I think he's the only new one. Yeah.
So one new person was elected. See, she's good. Yeah. I didn't remember stuff like that, but yeah. And other than that, we've had a couple events. We're kind of, it's the end of the year. We're all winding down. Seniors are leaving on the graduation's the 16th. I believe we get to see all you there, all the board. I kind of remember that from distant days. I was actually in the band, so I was there every time. But yeah, it's gonna be good. The 16th. I forget when the last day of actual classes are, and then they have the senior activities, which consist of like the senior breakfast. I don't know if this has been explained like 2 years before, but yeah, there's like the senior breakfast where you attend your prior elementary school if you were here, and you get to go have breakfast with all your teachers that you had back in 5th grade, 4th grade. And there's a couple other things. There's a senior trip. That's the Six Flags. And there's just a couple other activities. I can't remember them off the top of my head. There's always the senior gift. I don't know what that is, but I should know, too. I'm like in class reps. Oh, and there's baccalaureate. It's a banquet. Other than that, I guess I'm pretty much done. It's time for me to pass it off.
Student council has also been doing Special Olympics, and we've been helping out and getting them ready every Thursday after school, practicing with them and just kind of guiding them. And it's been a lot of fun. So that's pretty much all we've been doing recently. And we're going to the State House this Friday for a state re-election.
Excellent.
Yep.
Pat?
Thank you, and welcome. And Michael,
Thank you.
we will miss you. Michael's mom and dad came, and his little brother Austin, too, tonight. That was nice. From North School, the annual father-daughter dance was held on May 4th. Spirit Day is May 25th, and everyone will be showing their stars and stripes on that day. Dads will be busy again when they travel to Manchester for the father-son night at the Fisher Cat baseball game on June 16th. From South School, 5th grade students are drawing world maps freehand, and the students are very proud of pulling together all of their map skills. They're also in the middle of their geology rotation, and the students rotate through all 6 5th grade classes, having hands-on experiences and learning opportunities on the topics of plate tectonics, earthquakes and volcanoes, geologic time and fossils, rocks and minerals, and weathering and erosion. And everyone has been very engaged in that. South School art teacher Marcia Connors would like to invite the school board and all those in attendance here tonight to the annual South School Student Art Show on Wednesday, May 23rd from 6 to 8. Every student will have one piece of art on display, and several students will be portraying famous artists. There will be special artwork displays of the students representing South School in the Art Annual Book and the Youth Art Month participants. It's a fun community night celebrating the visual arts. Refreshments will be served. From Matthew Thornton, reading teacher Vicki Stickney extends her thanks to everyone, students, parents, teachers, and volunteers for the most successful year of Books and Beyond. This year, for the first time, everyone in the school participated and read at least 20 books. We have 100% participation. The students read a total of 174,200 books between October and May. And additionally, 582 students have earned gold medals by turning in 7 log sheets, which equals about 120 books. And these students will be honored for their efforts in the awards assembly in June. On Thursday, May 4th, 4 of the 4th grade classes traveled to Concord to visit the State House and the Museum of New Hampshire History. While there, we were met by 2 of our state representatives, Frank Amiro and Al Baldessaro. And Representative Amiro presented a state flag to the students. He had the flag flown over the Capitol in honor of the Matthew Thornton Elementary School, so the kids got quite a big kick out of that. And then the 2 representatives also spent time with the students and tagged along on our visit through the House chambers, where the students actually sat in the rep seats and went through the process of voting on a mock bill. And 2 of the classes received a special treat when Governor Lynch came downstairs from his office to talk with the kids. He asked the students questions about New Hampshire history and let them ask him some questions as well. And after the question and answer period, he graciously asked if we could go outside and have a picture taken on the State House steps, so we did that. The last 4 classes will be going this Friday, so maybe they'll run into you guys up there. And both trips were previously canceled from snowstorms and bad weather. The spring assessments are taking place in all of the elementary schools with the administration of the 3rd writing prompt, the Dibble screening for fluency, testing for entrance into the KEY program, and also for the pull-out math program. 4th graders have begun the pilot of the kneecap science assessment. This will take place over a 2-day period and will take approximately 3 hours to complete. Also, on May 24th, there will be a parent night at Matthew Thornton to discuss the new reading program, so parents can come in and ask questions and hear about the program before it's implemented in the fall. From the middle school, Steve Iarocci reports that the 8th grade tornado team is planning a field trip to clean up the skate park on Wednesday, May 23rd. They'll be tying it to lessons in American Studies, Science, Math, English, and Health, where they expect they'll probably find some examples of unhealthy activities over there. The 6th grade had Brandon Mull, a young adult author, to visit the school for an assembly on imagination in writing and reading. The students loved every minute of the comedian-turned-author discussion. He met with the girls and boys book groups after school and signed posters, and he also read and critiqued their writing. Many of the students had read his book already, and the library is now purchasing additional copies of his book to keep up with the requests for the students. Matthew Thornton 5th graders had a fun visit with the 6th grade ASD classes. The 6th graders gave them tours of the building, showed them an example of an exemplary locker, which hopefully the 5th graders will be able to keep up next year, gave them an assignment notebook lesson, and participated in a panel discussion on the transition worries. And South and North will visit on Friday. May 4th was a lawyer in every classroom day, or every school day. 2 lawyers spent the day in 6th and 7th grade classrooms. The 7th grade learned about search and seizure laws as it pertains to them, and the 6th grade did a Yertle the Turtle mock trial. Both of the lawyers have already asked to return next year, and the students and teachers have also asked for them to come back, so I guess it was a great day. And today, the 8th grade completed their science kneecap pilot. All the 8th graders participated in the 2-session exam. First section was traditional multiple choice, and the second was an inquiry-based experiment. The district will not receive scores from this, as it was just a pilot. It's just for feedback on the actual test itself. And the music department will be presenting their all-day concert on Saturday, May 19th from 9 to 4. And from the high school, the final music concerts are coming up next week, or this week and next week, with the band and jazz concert tomorrow and the choral and orchestra concert next Wednesday. And it's always a special evening for the seniors as they're recognized for their participation. Also, Spanish teacher Christine Dutton wishes to inform you of a video conference experience that took place between her Spanish 4 grammar and conversation students and a group of students from Mexico that are studying in Texas. The video conferencing is an amazing tool, and from a language point of view, it's a valuable opportunity to have the students talk to other students within their age group in the target language. Mrs. Jackson from the Library Media Center has been wonderful and worked very hard to set up the conferences. Mrs. Jackson and Mrs. Dutton decided to pair up with a school in Texas. The students at the school are from Mexico and are here in the U.S. to learn English. The students here could practice their Spanish, and the students from Texas could practice their English. The high school students created a PowerPoint presentation that would be the perfect way to introduce the town of Londonderry, the high school life in the class, and with a lot of hard work both in and outside of the classroom, they made it all happen. The students gathered information, pictures, worked on their written and spoken language, and pieced together the presentation. They also were able to use the MP3 players to record their Spanish and then import that into the PowerPoint to put sound on the slides. After hours of hard work, it came together. They had their first conference on May 9th. And the class started by saying a brief hola and then went right into the show. And after the PowerPoint, the students introduced themselves in Spanish by saying their name, age, class, and some of their personal interest. Then they were opened up to questions from the students in Texas. And yesterday, the roles were reversed, and the Texas students were then did a presentation for our students. So it was a great opportunity for all, and Mrs. Dutton is very proud of her students and their work. And also, last week was Teacher Appreciation Week, and many thanks to all the people here in town that helped us celebrate a really nice week with lots of nice treats. So thank you very much.
Excuse me. Before I move to the board, I've got two items, and I'm sorry, I forgot about them. Two questions came up to me at the fields, and maybe don't need answers today, but maybe you can give them. One is for you, Peter. In the kindergarten, if children are at a daycare center, do we pick them up at the daycare center? And that's the first question that came up to me. If the child is at a daycare center and that's their primary location, would we pick them up and drop them off at that location? Okay. Second question came up, Nate, this is more for you and Mark, is what is the status of multi-age classes and looping in the district? We had reports how well that was going, and a couple of people asked me about that over at the fields this weekend. So those are two issues. If we can bring back, I'd appreciate. Okay, I apologize for that. Ben? School board, any reports?
I attended a town council meeting, but as Dan had mentioned a meeting or so ago, it was mostly about the junkyard, and I left. So that there wasn't anything else on the agenda that was relevant to the district.
Okay. George?
Thanks, Ron. The technology committee met, but they're going to be coming up in a little bit, so I'm not going to belabor that. Communications had a meeting yesterday, and even though everybody thinks I don't have a real job, I really do, so I had to do my real job, and I couldn't attend that meeting, and the real job was not mowing the lawn, so I'll stop that right off the bat. And then I attended a planning board meeting last week. The only thing, a couple things of relevance to the school board is the planning board will recommend that the impact fees be raised for a 4-bedroom home to $9,922, which is up, I think, from around $7,000 where it was. I think it's up about $2,000. The other thing of relevance, and unfortunately I had to leave a little bit early, so I missed the discussion about the Harvey Road bus facility. It was mentioned that just like Enterprise Rent-A-Cars, having the buses here in Londonderry will bring revenue. That is incorrect. There is no revenue generated from the school buses. They carry government plates. So that's, it's been brought to the attention of the chair of the planning board that is not a factor to be considered when looking at that bus facility up off Harvey Road. So, and that was it.
Okay. Steve?
I did go to the Communications Committee meeting yesterday because my lawn is not mowed. And the two major things that were discussed, actually of three. The school district has discovered analytics. I apologize to the Communications Committee because I was a beta tester on that over a year ago, and I probably should have mentioned it to them. For those of you that don't know what analytics is, it's a tool that Google offers so that you can watch your website. So now, rather than anecdotal information on what people are doing and where they're going when they go to the londonderry.org website, we'll be able to tell exactly where they are and see how many people are interested in the lunch menu versus how many people are interested in the curriculum. We reviewed frequently asked questions for all of the schools, and those will be updated at the websites. The other spirited discussion was trying to find a way to get people to come over to the school district booth. And it's preliminary, but I think that the committee found a very good way to do that. And that is we have mascots in each of our schools. And if we were to have the mascots stopping in now and then, it would be great to have the hawk and the tiger paws and the Lancer, new mascot that we have, and would probably thrill all the little kids to come over and see their mascot or one of the other schools' mascots. Nate and I also went on a field trip to the State House. The governor did not greet us. We did a press conference last week, and I have to tell you, I am amazed, and my hat's off to Superintendent Nate Greenberg. He is not only the leader in this community of our $60 million school district, he is the leader in the state. Mark my words, political situations depending, I can see him as the Commissioner of Education one day. He was able to get to the meeting, this press conference, the following groups, and this is in a pretty amazing list. Obviously, the Londonderry School District was represented by our school board. NH Cafe was represented by probably 10 different members. The Claremont group was represented by Scott Johnson, who gave a closing statement that was very powerful. The Teachers Union, NEA, was in attendance and represented and spoke against the constitutional amendment. The School Board Association did not come to the event, but they did provide testimony that's available at nhcafe.org. There were Democrat and Republican representatives, true bipartisan coalition of representatives speaking against the constitutional amendment. By the way, the constitutional amendment needs 3/5 of the House to vote for it. It already had 3/5 of the Senate vote for it. The Administrators Association was there speaking against the constitutional amendment. The children's advocacy groups spoke against the constitutional amendment. Senator Jacqueline Chiley gave a great speech about how she was for the amendment when she voted for it, but she's against the amendment. And that case joins Senator Ira Easterbrook, who also voted for the amendment, but has published on our site, nhcafe.org, that she's against the amendment now. And she's the chairman of the Senate Education Committee, so it's an important position. Granite State Taxpayers Association is also against it. The New Hampshire Advantage Coalition is against it. The people that are for it would include the governor, the State Board of Education. I'd like to thank Londonderry for not actively participating in the Greater Manchester Chamber of Commerce, because they are for the constitutional amendment. But other than those few people, that's it for the people that support it. Oh, and Nate will get into the testimony, I'm sure. He did go to testify against it. Governor Lynch's, the school board for the town that he lives in, the entire school board came out and testified against the constitutional amendment, so they don't agree with it either. I'm just curious if we could just have breakfast with Dr. Lynch and the governor if Dr. Lynch is for or against the constitutional amendment. But that's something we probably won't know. I'd just like to thank everyone in the community. We had community members that came to the press conference, and there was a very large block of people there, and it sure made it easy to talk to the cameras and talk to the press about how this constitutional amendment's the wrong thing to do. I did get word today at about 2:30 in the afternoon from our representatives that there will be some Republican constitutional amendments that are floated and presented, but they don't expect any of those to have the ability to pass along with this constitutional amendment, which puts us where we should be. The state has approximately 48 days left to define, to determine funding, to find the funding, and to hold itself accountable for providing an adequate education to every student in New Hampshire. And Nate can talk about the testimony, and that's all I have.
Dan?
I missed the C3 meeting. We had a meeting that same evening with the architect, Mr. Frank Marinese, and Frank's here this evening, and there'll be later on a discussion relative to proposal for a contract relative to South School A&E, so I'll defer to that.
Nate?
Thank you.
Yes, the day following the press conference, which was Wednesday of last week, the House Finance Committee held hearings which started from 9 o'clock in the morning and I believe ran to about 4 o'clock in the afternoon with a break for lunch. I think it's safe to say that about 80% of the people that presented testimony were in opposition to the constitutional amendment for all the reasons that Steve has enunciated over the last several months. And our main focus was basically that we feel that the constitutional amendment as it's presently constituted will result in less funding to the public schools across the state. And the constitutional amendment also indicates that it would be completely targeted money, which would mean some school districts would get sizable amount, others may get as much as $1 in state adequacy money. And the way it's worded too, and if you look at the actions and the comments that have been made by the governor, that catastrophic aid money would be included in it, building aid money would be included in it, and by capping it at 50% of adequacy, they're really, based on all the definitions I've seen, really talking about 25% of the total cost of education in the state of New Hampshire, which would really solidify New Hampshire's 50th place in the United States as far as state funding of education is concerned. And it would also allow the state really to scale back on the amount of funds that would be available for the public schools. So the focus of our argument has been the state, we are highly regulated, everything from transportation to curriculum. State owes all of the students in the state of New Hampshire funding to allow for adequacy of education, and that instead of a constitutional amendment, which really is taking away from the main discussion, they should concentrate on defining, costing out funding, and ensuring there's an accountability system for adequacy. In other words, what they're trying to do is start at the end and then back into a formula, and that was the issue that one of the issues that we raised in our successful lawsuit. So what we're looking at is the same mannequin with a different sport jacket on it. All the talk about quality and flexibility is really, from my perspective, a smokescreen when you start to take a look at the numbers.
Okay, thank you very much. I was at the technology meeting, and that we'll be talking about that in a few minutes, and I was not able to make the C3 because of work. So I'm going to move the agenda around if you don't mind. The first thing I would like to do is hit 8.1 Enrichment Clusters Report. And Mark, would you like to lead that discussion?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's a pleasure this evening to present, second year in a row, the district's enrichment clusters. In your board packet this evening is just a general report on participation and breakout of volunteers, teachers, administrators, and assistants. Pleased to report that we had nearly 800 students, 4th and 5th grades, in our enrichment clusters across the 3 schools. Over 40 volunteers from the community, including 5 Londonderry High School students that worked on the enrichment clusters at South School. And it's just an exciting program to see. I got to visit a couple of the schools this winter to see some of their enrichments. I'm going to turn it over at this point to the 3 elementary principals, and I'm not sure which one would like to start. Mr. Zakeli shall start.
As Mark said, we had a lot of volunteers from the community participate in the enrichment clusters, as well as the staff members at each of the schools, the teaching assistants, administration, whoever was available. And tonight we just want to highlight one of the clusters from each of the schools. And as part of the process of the enrichment clusters, our goal was to come up with a finished product of some kind. And tonight's North School radio show. Hopefully, if things all work out, and I think they will, we will actually have a radio show on WLLO, the Londonderry radio channel. We're very excited about that. The kids work very hard. And I do want to point out that the two teachers involved, Tony Caballero and Sue Raymond, put in a lot more time than the 5 hours to get this all created from start to finish. So I want to commend them for their efforts and going above and beyond the call of duty. I also wanted to point out that one of our other clusters, safety and survival, was a very popular cluster. And I wanted to thank George Herman and Steve Young, who came out on succeeding Fridays. George came one Friday, and then Steve came the following Friday, and added their expertise to that particular cluster. And the kids were really excited about having both come in and talk a little bit about their experiences. And Colleen Monks, who was one of our parents, actually ran that particular cluster and did a fabulous job. But I want to thank George and Steve. And that's part of the entire enrichment culture, I guess, is to get people from the community with expertise to come to the school. So without further ado, I want to bring up Tony and Sue to talk very briefly about the cluster and then show you a very brief, we wanted to just kind of show you what the kids were doing in the cluster. When I went to the district office today and brought the CD to Peter to try to make it work, I went in there, it was just Peter. When I turned around, the entire technology team was assembled in Peter's office, and I wasn't sure why, so I'm still trying to figure that out.
We came up with this idea to produce our own radio show, and the children, we had 17 children that participated. We obtained a book of children's radio plays, which we used as our resource, and we decided that the one that would probably have the most interest to the children was one entitled Quark Raygon, Interplanetary Hero. We felt that was it was a one that gave the children, everyone would most likely have a speaking part. If not a speaking part, they would be in charge of doing the various sound effects. We began the cluster with kind of filling them in, giving the background of the history of radio, which was fascinating to them because it was hard for them to imagine a family sitting around this big box and there was no picture there. They just were staring at and listening to the sound. So they really were intrigued by that. The first couple of weeks after the subsequent weeks, we did tryouts for the parts, and the children practiced, and they really did a great job. They each had their own script, which they took home, and they came back the following week, and we kind of broke them up into small groups, and we listened to them read the parts. And they really enjoyed it. And finally, we did end up coming the last Friday of the cluster, taping the show. It was videotaped, and part of that you'll see this evening. And then Mrs. Carbieta has some people to thank.
We didn't do it alone. We had a lot of help. We had Marie Parker, who went above and beyond, checking all the copyright laws because we added music, and we wanted to make it really special for the kids. Barbara McKenzie did all the videotaping for us. Where we got our slideshow was Terry Bristol took the videotape and then put that to music. So hopefully that's going to play in a few minutes. And we had one assistant that came in and helped, Jen Ashford, and we had a parent volunteer also. So there was a lot that went into this, a lot of volunteer time too. You ready?
Hey girls, what you up to? Hi Curtis, Hannah and I were just heading over to listen to WLLO at her house. What is WLLO? Why, it's Londonderry's own radio station. Are they playing some kind of special music or something that you want to hear? Actually, Curtis, we're going to listen to Quark Raygun, Interplanetary Hero. It is a serial put on by one of the enrichment clusters at North School. You're going to listen to cereal? I usually eat cereal and not listen to it. Unless you're talking about those three guys, Snack, Crackle, and Pop. No, silly. A serial is a story told in parts. For example, Arabian Nights, which dates back from the 10th century, is an early example of one. That's right, Curtis. Its narrator, Scheherazade, had wed a king who married a different maiden every night and then beheaded her in the morning. When Scheherazade marries the king, she decides the only way to save her own life is to tell him a serialized story that lasts 1001 nights, and is so interesting that he has to hear the rest. What kind of nut was that, King? It's just a fantasy, so of course it never really happened. But as time went on, newspapers and magazines picked up serials. Charles Dickens was serialized before his work appeared in books. By the 1930s, WGN, a Chicago radio station, aired the first serial called A Painted Crane. When soap companies got involved as sponsors, serials became known as soap operas, sort of like the ones we watch on TV today. They even included some well-known comic strips like Lil Abner, Little Orphan Annie, and Terry and the Pirate. You know, I kind of remember my great-grandfather telling me about a decoder ring and a secret code book he received from a radio show. I wonder if they came from a serial. I bet it was. Well, what happened to the serials? Well, in the 1950s, television became the new storytelling medium, and that was the end of the radio show. Lucky for us that WLLO gave us the opportunity to put on a radio show just like when our great-grandparents were kids. Do you want to come and listen? Sure, but what is it about? Well, it's about Cork Raygun and his sidekick heroine, Daisy Wheel. They fly through the universe in the starship North One, doing whatever good deeds need to be done. Sounds like fun. Let's go!
Thank you.
The enrichment clusters are truly probably the best thing we've done over the last couple of years. We've done it for 2 years, and if you could come into our buildings for those 5 weeks and those 5 afternoons, you would just feel a different energy in the school. It's really fabulous. You can take a break from the curriculum and do things that really spark kids' interests and talents. So much fun. We had 22 clusters, and Mark's already told you what the composition of our facilitators. I have with me tonight Jessica LaFleur, hello, who co-facilitated our sign language cluster with Ellen Montebello and Amy Costello, who are special education teachers. And Jessica LaFleur is one of our special education assistants. The handbook that you have is on CD, so she'll show the audience some of what you're looking up there. Go ahead.
I got it started. It'll probably take a few minutes to load because there's a lot of information, a lot of pictures on the CD. As she said, I worked with Ellen Montebello and Amy Costello, who did most of the instructing. They did a really great job. They have training in sign language, and they've worked with students in the past in sign language. My role was as an assistant and also to work on this project that is now up on the screen. We first started this cluster by asking the students what they were interested in learning in sign language. They wanted to be able to talk to their friends casually out in the hallway or out on the playground. So we taught them the signed alphabet and how to fingerspell their names. Another thing that they did was greetings. Their favorite greetings were nice to meet you, hello, and their favorite one was what's up. They absolutely love that one. We also taught them how to say certain foods in sign language, like hamburger and soda pop. And we taught them colors as well, among other things. We set the cluster up into groups. One of the groups was for instruction, so they would learn the new signs for the day. Another group was games, card games, board games, that were related to sign language. One of the games in particular was charades, because we wanted them to understand that sign language has a lot of body expression and facial expressions. So they had a lot of fun with that, and they really understood the point that they really need to put their feeling into signing. We also did some art projects. Valentine's Day came right in the middle of our cluster. So we did some projects where we had them cut out their hand and they had to put the I love you sign on a card for somebody in their family, and they decorated them very nicely. We also did an activity where they had to decorate cookies, and they had to ask for a color. And our expectation for PBIS at the time was using kind words. So we incorporated that into the activity by asking them to say, please red, please blue. And then they had to say thank you, and we would respond by saying you're welcome. Then we also watched a movie. It was actually kind of funny seeing 5th graders watching Little Red Riding Hood, because it's a very young story, but it was actually very challenging for them because they had to follow along in sign language. And there was also parts in the movie where the actors in the story would teach them how to sign certain words that were in the story. Another group was my group, which is the project that you're looking at. And this project took the entire 5-week time of this cluster. And what I started out doing was, before the cluster began, I took pictures of everything that's around South School. I'll move this down a bit so you can get a better idea. Hopefully it's loaded enough. Okay. And I broke it down into categories: places around South School, people, things, using kind words, and our PBIS program, as you know, is very important in South School. I made a list, and I took the children in groups of 4 or 5 into a quiet place so we could do some research. I let them pick a word or a phrase that they wanted to do, so they were interested, and they had to look up in some sign language books like these here. The library was kind enough to offer us a very big basket full of books, which means they had to use their table of contents skills and their index skills. Once they found the sign that they were looking for, they had to demonstrate it to me. If they had trouble demonstrating it, I would help them. And then once they got the sign down, I then took pictures of them. When I got pictures of all the signs that we were looking for, I put it all together into this book. I downloaded it, downloaded it down onto my computer, cropped the pictures, put arrows and circles and things so that way it would make it easier for them to follow. One of the things that I noticed when they were doing their research was that some of the books were very hard for the students to understand. So when I typed this up, I tried to use simple language and make it as user-friendly as possible, so that way when teachers and students who had never used sign language before looked in this book, they were able to understand it clearly and easily. I think I covered everything. Does anybody have any questions? Yes, bathroom was one of their favorite signs too. At the end of the cluster, I gave them all a copy of this book, and of course you can imagine they all were very excited, and they were looking for pictures of themselves, and they were doing the signs. They had a ball. They really liked doing the sign Mystery Hawk, which is our mascot. And I think that about covers it all. These are the things that I took pictures of.
At our last cluster, as in the other schools, we had the students complete a survey, but what they felt about the cluster. We had the parents complete a survey and the facilitators. And for the 4th graders who participated, we asked them what they would like to see for next year. And sign language came up as one of the suggestions from our last year's 4th grade. So we did follow through with some of their suggestions. They also wanted dance and gymnastics, and we were able to give those to them this year.
I think that covers it. Thank you very much.
We had a great time with our clusters at Matthew Thornton as well. Similar to the South School, we held them in mid-January until February vacation. Putting this together takes a good deal of work, but we had a wonderful committee, including special education teacher Nancy Winter, and our 5th grade teacher Stella Skorpowski, our star volunteer Amy Zielinski, and myself. We were able to rope in enough volunteers to complement the staff in grades 4 and 5 and to run the 26 clusters with a wide variety of options for the students. And as we did last year, we surveyed the students at the end of the clusters to see if they enjoyed the ones they were in, if they had learned anything, and if they would like to participate in clusters again. As you can see from the data that we handed out, the students highly rated the clusters in all areas. And happily, we also showed a good deal of growth in the areas from last year's surveys. Last year, you might note that we only had enrichment clusters in 5th grade. This year, we expanded it to 4th and 5th grade. That's why the numbers jumped so much. We also asked the students for some comments that talked about their cluster. I've included a sample of them at the bottom for you. I think things like that energy is everywhere, that they learned that, or they learned that pan frying is different from sauteing. You can get a feel from this. How to swaddle a baby, or that PE stands for price earnings. You can get a sense of the variety of clusters that we had. So we were really happy to see that the students learned so much. I think the facilitators learned a lot too. So I've asked Amy and Stella to present about their Pictures Worth 1,000 Words cluster, and they'll share that with you.
Well, as you all know, it lasted 5 weeks, 5 Fridays. The first Friday we spent with the kids just basically going over what they expected from the cluster, what they wanted to learn, the basics of digital photography, and because it's an hour, we wanted to let them get their hands on the cameras a little bit, so we spent probably the last 15 minutes or so just snapping off some pictures. But we showed them pictures that other people had taken, so it gave them an idea that about perspective and cropping and setting up your shot, that sort of thing. The second 2 weeks, we kind of let them run amok. We just let them go around Matthew Thornton School taking pictures. We were with them as a group the entire time, but we let them just take pictures of whatever they wanted. The final 2 weeks, we sat with them and gave them a quick overview of iPhoto, and it was amazing how quickly they picked it up. They needed very little assistance after the first 10 or 15 minutes. Every once in a while, a computer would get hung up, and that was the only problem. But they learned how to crop and how to pick something out of their photo that they wanted to focus in on, how changing from color to black and white or sepia tone would change the feel of the photo, and how that feel of the photo would change the story that they were trying to tell. The students learned how to use the digital cameras. They learned how to use the photo editing software that the school has with iPhoto. They learned how to turn down the volume on their computer.
Bravo.
They learned how to work together as a team, which was really important. We had 4th and 5th graders together, 10 children. Some of them knew each other, some of them didn't. And getting 2 4th grade or 5th grade girls to share a camera, they learned to do it, and we didn't have any problems. They were really wonderful. At the end of the cluster, each of the children were given an 8x10 framed picture of those photos that they chose as their favorites. They're going around now. They were put together as a collage and framed and matted, and it gave them something to be proud of, a part of their work that they produced in their enrichment cluster.
As facilitators, we helped the students learn about the cameras. That was probably one of the first things that we did. Then we talked about what makes a good picture. And as Amy said, we showed them a lot of Amy's pictures, actually. And we showed them what cropping can do, how you can take just a portion of that scene, crop out the rest of it, and really tell a totally different story. And we had a lot of discussions about that. I mean, how you can take the same picture, crop it, and show 2 different stories. And the kids really got into that. And that was something that later on, when they were cropping their own pictures, they really took some time to look at their pictures and what do I really want to show in that picture. And they also had a really good time turning that into black and white and how that changed the entire tone of the picture and things that they hadn't thought about before. And we also encouraged them not to take just pictures of people, but also to take pictures of the school, what was going on, to help them talk about that story, because objects will also make great stories. And as Amy said, and as you are looking, they got to take some of those pictures home with them. They also turned some of those pictures into kind of a collage right on the computer. Had a good time with that.
I think one of the things that Stella and I were most proud of about the cluster was that it was truly a student-driven cluster. I sat in on some of the early meetings with enrichment clusters, and one of the things that they did down in Connecticut, or that they strove to do in Connecticut, was to allow the children to drive the direction of the cluster. And being a bit of a control freak, it's kind of hard to let a bunch of 9 and 10-year-olds run the show. But they did. They were terrific. It just sort of pointed them in the direction, and they took off. And it was a wonderful, wonderful experience.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate your good attention.
Any questions from the board? Seeing none, with the board's permission, I'd like to go to the architect contract so we can get the architect out of here at an early hour. So, they're going to be you,
Sure,
Peter?
I'll start. With us tonight is Frank Marinese, and I'm speaking on behalf of the South School Space Needs Committee. We are seeking approval of Frank Marinese's proposed contract to be the architect for the proposed construction and renovation project at South School. Frank, as many of you know, has been working with the committee for the past several months. Obviously has provided crucial information necessary in developing the draft presentation that I did on behalf of the committee back in December, showing at least a draft sketch of what we feel the renovations will be to South School, tearing down the existing portables, replacing it with, I believe it's 6 now, permanent classrooms. We also showed some interior renovation work being recommended by the committee. We are now at the point where we need a full-fledged architect as we enter the stage where more detailed drawings are going to be required. First step is to hire the architect. The next step would be, with the architect's assistance, selecting a construction management firm, and then from there proceeding with obviously plans developed by the architect and bids and estimates provided by the construction management firm, to then come to this board somewhere around September with an update, and then with a GMP price, if the board wishes to go forward, to be placed on the March 08 warrant for a bond project for South School. In order to do so, we obviously need the approval to hire Frank as the architect and move forward from here.
If we could ask Frank, could you come up and sit at the microphone there for a minute? As I mentioned earlier in committee reports, Peter Currow, Chuck Zappa, and myself met with Frank a week or so ago relative to some directive by the board chair and the board, I believe, in discussing Marinese Architects contract submittal relative to two criteria. One is, were there any cost savings as we just recently completed North School and South School being somewhat similar in scope and size, and we talked quite extensively relative to of it, albeit there's different site considerations. Not being an architect, obviously, Frank edified pluses and minuses of both sites that have impact on cost. And secondarily, we also reviewed several cost considerations in Frank's contract, and I asked Frank to join us this evening. There is a difference, and I think the number's in the $38,000 range from what the board thought at the last meeting and what we're looking at this evening. I believe the number's in that range, but I did ask, and at the chair's discretion, asked Mr. Marinese to join us, and Frank was kind enough to do that. So I thought it made some sense if the board, as all committees, the members that are sent out, all of us, are simply liaisons to those meetings, and made sense for Frank to come in because it is public that we should discuss this, and we're looking to talk about Frank's contract, so there he is.
Questions from the board? George?
Sure, I can start. Mr. Marinese, I always like your work, so I don't want you to take anything I'm going to say personally. I guess my first question is and it's not necessarily for Frank, I think it's probably more for Peter and anybody else on the committee. Mr. Marinese is the only architect we considered, correct?
Yes.
Can you just explain to me why, for $348,000, we don't put that out to bid?
Our feeling was in the committee that Frank's knowledge of local code in Londonderry, Frank's familiarity with with Londonderry, and especially he's done a fair amount of work already at South School, and we felt that having an architect who was familiar with the board, familiar with Londonderry, familiar with the site, I'll speak as an individual, and I think the committee agrees. Frank's work has been outstanding. His services have been outstanding for us. As we know, Frank was the architect in most recent projects, Londonderry School District, Moose Hill Kindergarten, the high school gymnasium and renovations, and then most recently the North School project. We felt comfortable with Frank's work, his familiarity, and his fee structure, that we needed as I said earlier, we needed a consultant to work with us up front to come up with the drawings and kind of step one of what the board was asking for. Now we're simply asking to extend a formal bid or a formal contract to Frank as the architect, actually extending the services that he's provided the group for the past 6-7 months.
On those other projects, did we put those out to bid?
I gotta go back to memory now.
The North School and the gymnasium and
I
for the
don't
architecture
believe,
work?
Maybe can I help with that question?
Sure.
All right, thanks. When you hire an architect, you're hiring someone to give you professional services.
Mm-hmm.
We don't produce anything. We think about what's happening, and we give instructions to a contractor based on your program on how to build a building. Those professional services vary from architect to architect. Would you advertise and get the lowest bid from a lawyer? You would get a low bid. You could get a low bid from a doctor. You could get a much lower bid from an architect than what we do the work for. But the inexperience and the mistakes and what you'd end up with, spending $6, $7, $8 million, would cost a whole lot more than the difference in fees. It's a common misconception that you would bid professional services. But a professional service is not a product. It varies tremendously on the ability, qualifications, experience, all those things rolled into one. I've been designing schools for 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
That amounts to something.
Absolutely.
What you're buying is experience. We've been through so many projects. We've seen a lot of mistakes made. We know a lot of the games contractors play. That's worth something to you. It gets you more building for the money. You've been, I think with all the projects we've done for you, you have to ask yourself this question: have there been any major problems? Have all the projects come in within budget?
Yeah, and as I said at the beginning, I'm certainly not questioning qualifications, and I, for one, don't go out looking for the lowest bid.
Mm-hmm.
I go out to bid to see, number one, what the market bears, and number two, to see what other experiences there are out there. Again, as I stated, from the beginning, it's a matter of we have a fiduciary responsibility to the people of this community to make sure we spend their money in the proper fashion.
Agreed.
And in my opinion, the way to do that is to look at a variety of choices and make the most qualified choice for the most benefit. Doesn't necessarily mean the lowest bid. As a matter of fact, in my professional life, most of the time, I never go with the lowest bid because it's typically somebody who's fresh out of architecture school, who's never done, something in New Hampshire or something, similar to that. So, that's where my questions are based on, is I get nervous when, again, it's the same individual, same firm. If I was buying dishwashers, it'd be the exact same thing across the board. I'd be questioning, the same situation. It's not
But you would
necessarily this.
but you would shop for the same dishwasher at different prices. You would get different buildings hiring different architects,
Right,
completely different projects.
I understand that.
And there are projects that have nightmares out there.
Mhm.
And what's that nightmare worth? So
Oh,
I
yeah,
think-
there's no doubt, and that goes to my statement about qualified individuals and qualified companies and the ability, to work with those folks. And, you've always been terrific, and, as I said, I admire your work every time I walk into one of our buildings. It's just that we owe the people of this community the assurance that, we're getting the best price, the best quality with those individuals.
I think you are.
To me, and, that may be the case. And I understand that sitting, from your position, I completely understand that you're trying to,
Well, we get,
tell us that.
we get hired by a lot of other towns in the area. If I
Understood.
may, for just a second, you probably don't know much about what we've been doing in the past few years. We're working in Pelham on a new high school. It's approximately a $50 million project. We're working with Salem on their high school. That's going to end up being maybe a $39 million, this is estimated, project. We're working in Newport for $10 million, Jaffrey for $9 million, Epping for $12 million, Bedford High School, we're just finishing for $50 million. We're doing other jobs out there. Now, these people hire us after interviewing, looking at what else is out there, weeding out people. Some of these towns start off with 25, 30 different architects, and we end up getting these jobs. That's not by accident. They do research, they check references, look at the finished product. When an architect leaves town, when the project is done, you're left with the building. So the best thing for people to do is go and look at what is there when the architect leaves town. What has been produced? If you have different architects, you're going to have different buildings. And when all is said and done, you're left with the building that the architect designed. So a lot of these school districts, and this is pages and pages and pages of projects, have done the research, have interviewed, have visited projects, have called references, and we get hired.
Yeah, and I'm not questioning your qualifications. I guess I'm asking about the procedures that we follow and the procedures that we're supposed to be following. So I'm, there's no need to belabor it. It was more of a question for, that group. This is the Space Needs group. So, and again, thank you very much.
Dan?
George, I think I can help out a little bit, and Peter said he doesn't remember. I'm not even sure he was here. Ben, you and I were both on the kindergarten building committee. I don't know when you got there, but we did go out and interview architects on the kindergarten building committee. And, I see Jim nodding his head as well. And Frank had previous experience in the district from years gone back, but we did interview. The other way we do it, and Frank did such a bang-up job and brought the project in under cost, and we had some site issues over there, some contamination issues, and a number of issues. But, so I understand what you're saying. You're not questioning Frank's qualifications,
Right.
certainly. But we did interview for the kindergarten. Secondarily is, from that, we developed, and the committees, as you're well aware, and there's been, from the kindergarten, we kind of morphed. We had different dichotomy of people, but we went into the high school, and that took about 3 or 4 years of that committee to finally get to the project approval by the voters. But the committee's chemistry are made up of a bunch of different community members with some construction background other than just board representation. In that, and I don't know if this is worth anything in this conversation, but we built a budget originally before we even interview construction managers or architects or general contractors, and we, from the experience that we had in the past from community volunteers that had construction backgrounds, we figured out a percentage that an architectural fee should fall in on the overall project that we had in mind. And that number was a percentage, and what we did is on the high school, when we approached Frank and he submitted a bid, that fell within that percentage that was pre-qualified by looking industry-wide. So my memory on the high school as a participant of that committee is to answer your question in all honesty, we did on the kindergarten, we went out and solicited bids for architects, and I see everybody nodding their head. The high school, I do not remember doing that.
I don't remember doing architect, construction management.
We did interview Frank, once we selected Frank as the architect on the high school project, we did interview a number, if I'm not mistaken, 5 or 6 construction management firms. So we did do that for the actual project. But in all honesty, to answer your question, Peter said he didn't remember. I don't think he was here on the early days of the kindergarten.
No, we came in, and I believe the same process as the high school was done at North School. Frank was
It
brought
fell
on
within
as the
that.
architect, and we interviewed construction management firms.
That's correct. And it fell, once again, we did look at Frank's submittal relative to that, right or wrong, relative to that standard percentage that we were looking at as a percentage of A&E fees. And that's actually how we even developed the warrant number. Is that kind of your recollection,
Yeah,
Ron?
I
You were
have-
on most of those committees
I
as
had
well.
thought we had also gone out for bid one other time, and for some reason, I thought it was the middle school or something like that.
Middle
way
school was,
before me.
middle school was before me, Ron.
Okay,
But I was just,
When we lost it,
right.
was not Frank, that was,
No, that's correct.
in '95, Jim, on the high school, we had another firm out of Boston that their contract was based upon if the Taj Mahal, which I
Passed.
voted for, went through, they would then get awarded the job.
Yes.
Right,
But that's so far back that,
yeah.
It's like an eternity ago.
but anyhow,
And
so
probably a
that's my
generation.
recollection, George.
Okay, thank you.
That's
No,
what- I don't know if
appreciate
that helps.
No, it does. I mean, I appreciate the clarification. It's, I'll defer for a moment.
Steve?
Frank, I'd also like to compliment you on your schools. You obviously don't have any triangles in your shop, because we end up with nice, square, strong buildings. And squares are less expensive than triangles, and we appreciate that. So it sounds like in the community, you've done Moose Hill, the high school renovations, where we were very cost-effective in reutilizing the old gym. And I think that came in at $90 a square foot, or some very low fee for that type of construction. South School remediation for the mold, were you involved with that?
No.
No? North School and that facility, have I missed any projects?
Yeah.
The junior high.
Which ones? The junior high? Which is,
The original middle school, the original junior high.
okay, so the original junior high, and then not the renovations at the middle school?
Yes.
The renovations at the middle school. and the
Renovations at the
addition.
middle school?
Matthew Thornton expanded.
The
Matthew Thornton
10.6
addition.
million.
Other than the district office, did I miss anything?
Just one of the projects we didn't build, that we
Okay.
didn't do.
Okay. I too am in a service business. A portion of my business is in the service business. I've been doing it since 1989. And I'll agree with other members of the boards. They've indicated that they don't go with the lowest bidder, and I know my customers don't go with the lowest bidder. But I'd like to ask Peter, in my business, we have customers that have been with us for a decade and a half, and we do provide them, when they dedicate themselves, our customers dedicate themselves to us as a company providing services to them, we give them some type of deal. I mean, we provide to them excellent service, excellent time, excellent turnaround. We'll do anything, any time of the day or night for them. But we also provide them some financial consideration to the project. Have we discussed that with the architect on this?
Well, normally, the architect's fee structure is based on the cost of construction. And recognizing that South School is still in its infant stages and still hasn't been fully designed, GMP hasn't been derived yet. North School's project, when all said and done, was $5.5 million, and Frank's net cost, I mean, the fees given to the architectural firm was $398,000. And talking to Frank, and as Dan mentioned, we talked to him about the fee structure, and recognizing the support that Londonderry Schools has given his architect firm over the years, the estimated cost for the South School project is the same, $5.5 million, which is a coincidence, but that's what it's come out at the moment. And the fee structure right now, as being proposed in the contract, is $49,470 less than the $398,000 at North School. So there is a recognizing the support, the relationship between the architects and the Londonderry School District and the fee structure. Am I missing it, Frank?
Oh, I think if you got the numbers correct.
See, there's an advantage because Frank's firm understands the community of Londonderry. But I think there's also an advantage where Frank understands the Londonderry School District too. We understand him, and I think that relationship could result in lower fees. It does for my customers, so.
You're right.
Dan?
Steve, I'll just edify what you said. You said you're there 24/7 for your customers. Ron and I and Ben, to some degree, have been involved on almost every project with Frank in the last 9 years, and there's a lot of 24/7 going on there too. You know, Bob Lincoln's not here, but you know, Bob marshaled most of those projects as a board or as a representative of those committees, and I don't remember him ever having problems contacting Frank or dealing with the general contractor through Frank. So there was a lot of design issues. As we remember, North School was a little bit of an aberration because of the tight window of time. And if we remember, the disruption to the students was a concern of the board on that because it was a little different than the high school where we could build the gym out, or build the gym, then move those classrooms around a little bit, where North School, we had to bring that in a certain time window, and there was certainly, you know, that was done to everybody's satisfaction. And as we all know from the district, we heard very few complaints relative to that project. So I just wanted to speak to that because I also involved with the company that customer service is the lifeblood. And, you know, I think anybody here could call Frank and he'd be down here, and that's why I asked him to come this evening for these varied questions. So, but
Thank you.
and I'm not Frank's cousin or brother either. So. I just think he's done right by the district, and so there you go.
Ben, anything?
Hey, Frank.
Maybe, I'm already asking enough questions tonight. Let me just keep going, and maybe I should have brought this up as the first series of questions. Because again, we're being asked to spend $350,000 in design and architecture fees. And I understand, you know, Peter's done his preliminary show of what, you know, we think the building may look like, and I'm still not convinced that right now is the right time to build, and that's based on, if I look at numbers, the elementary school doesn't appear that it's gonna grow, the elementary numbers across the district. If I look at, I don't have it in front of me, but I looked at the last 4 or 5 years, whatever annual reports I had available, I looked at, and those numbers are either static or they're going down. So the elementary population, to my mind, is not going to increase. We've got, if I add up all the elementary schools, and Nate, if I take the highest number of kids we've got in any classroom, first, second, third, fourth, or fifth grade, and use that as a basis, based on the number of kids I've got on the numbers that we're gonna look at later on, I need 86 classrooms. In inventory right now across the 3 elementary schools, I've got 95 classrooms. Now, of course, that 95 includes those abomination portables at South School that undoubtedly we need to deal with somehow. I just don't know what the right solution is. And before, now Peter's talking $5.5 million for an addition down there, of which we want to commit $350,000 to that tonight. And I haven't been convinced that this is even the best course of action for us to take right at this time. So I don't know why we would want to commit that $350,000 now.
Nate?
So maybe somebody can shed some light on that for me.
I think, well, moving it this way, I think the proposal that had come forth regarding South School, and I look at it not as an addition, but a replacement of classrooms.
I agree.
And to get rid of the portables. Part of the program, if I remember correctly, was to reduce the number of classrooms at South School by 2. So it's reducing the classroom stock that we have at the elementary level by 2 classrooms.
Right, so let's say it would be 93,
Right.
of
So,
which I need 86.
Right, and though if you take the numbers,
Yeah.
okay, and you run them, you come out with that number of classrooms. The problem that we have is that from grade level to grade level, they don't always break that evenly. So if I were to take the number of classrooms that we're projecting for next year, I believe it comes to 89 classrooms, 89 classes, I think, across the board. Right now, as we're looking at it, we need 9 special education classrooms across the board for district-wide programs and some resource room space. It gets us to 98. And then if I subtract out 2, that gives us like 96 that we would need for the upcoming year. The way I'm looking at it is, as we look at the elementary district as a whole, with the increasing number of special ed district-wide classrooms, what I don't want to do is have all of them located at one particular school. I think it's important that we spread them out. So we're looking at district-wide classes, particularly at this point, at South School and at Matthew Thornton. Right now, we really don't have the space, even with the addition at North School, to put in a district-wide special ed program, just because of the number of classrooms. And even with the drop of a classroom next year, we're reclaiming what was going to be a reading room that we had used as a classroom this year. So as I look at the overall stock, and I look at what I believe we're going to be projecting, let's say we're going to be fairly static on the elementary, and may drop a little bit, where we're going to see spikes at the different schools. And I'll give you a perfect example. Next year, we're going to see a drop in the number of first grades at North School. Based on the information we have with the kids that have registered for kindergarten for the upcoming school year, the following year's first grade, which next year is the 08, 09, we're going to see a spike in first graders at North School and a drop in first graders at Matthew Thornton. So we're not getting what we had seen as kind of an even pattern, a consistent pattern. The other thing too, in meetings that we've just had with the administrators, what we're seeing is a growing need for certain district-wide special ed programs. They're going to eat up some space. And then the other complicating factor that we have, particularly at Matthew Thornton, is that we have several classrooms that are only 600 square feet as opposed to the traditional 900 square feet. So as we look at those, we've got to work with those. So the classrooms the 600 square foot classrooms, if I remember correctly, we've tried to keep smaller numbers in there because it's not the traditional 900 square foot classroom. So as I look at the number of, and I'm not even talking about the possibility of having like an art room or a music room at the elementary level. And I think with the number of elementary classrooms that we would have in stock with the South School, we would be just about right. We may be running into some scrunch on district-wide special ed programs, depending on how the numbers run. Because right now, as I look at what we're seeing at Moose Hill, we're getting increasing numbers, and as you know, we're going to have an additional program for PDD spectrum kids at Matthew Thornton next year, which is going to take up more classroom space. We still are having some issues at some of the elementary schools with resource room space and having not having those instructional spaces overloaded with groups of kids. So what we talked about on an administrative level is taking a look at a multitude of factors, and I'll go to what I think is going to be the conclusion as we go through. One is projecting out our population, which I think is going to drop a little bit and then it's going to stabilize. That gets us the number of classrooms. The second part is doing our projections on our district-wide special ed programs, and I think we're going to see a continuing increase at that at the elementary level, and it's going to have an impact, as we know, over at the middle school level. That's going to, in effect, eat up a number of other classrooms. We do have, from my perspective, based on what I've seen walking around, is that we have a number of resource room spaces that I think at this point are overcrowded. So what the analysis we're going to do is the following to make our projections. One is you take a look at numbers, but the other is you've got to also take a look at number of hours of service. So that what we'll be doing is taking our numbers, and I'll pick Matthew Thornton as an example. And let's say we have 75 students that are receiving special education services and resource pullout. What's the total number of hours these youngsters are receiving service? What are the groupings that these youngsters are in? So then we can make a judgment as to what, in fact, our space needs are to address these particular youngsters in a legitimate instructional space. Now, I'll give you an example. Up in North School, there's a resource room space that I think is overloaded. We've got multiple groups of kids. And taking a look at how we're utilizing that space. I believe just looking at preliminary numbers, and we'll come back to the board with definitive numbers, that what I can say is that if we were to look at the South School addition as it's proposed, and what we've got for classroom stock in the other schools, that we're going to fall just about right, and it may give us a little bit of breathing room on the elementary level for some additional district-wide special ed programs that I think we're going to need, and space that we're going to need. So that as I look, and then also give us the ability to provide some adjustments, perhaps with from time to time on some minor redistricting, because I think if we look at where the growth is, it's up at north. So we're going to have the ability to redistrict by moving some of the north down to Matthew Thornton, and in turn that's going to require us to perhaps move some Matthew Thornton youngsters down to South School. So you've got to have that little bit of flex to allow that to happen, because your numbers are not going to fall conveniently. We like to look at our primary classrooms is like 2021 if possible. The other classrooms, ideally, I'd like to have like 23, fourth and fifth, but the numbers don't always fall correctly. And so that sometimes you get in a situation where you could squeeze 25 in across the board in 4 classrooms, but you might be better off with 5 because of the nature of the kids. So having just that little bit of flex, I think, is critically important for the stability of the program. From one year to the other, might there be a spare room someplace? I'm not going to argue that point. There may be, all right? But to have that flexibility, I think, is important, because the other way that you look at buildings is not just enrollment, but also you look at utilization of space. And right now, I would say that at the elementary level, our utilization numbers are way up over 90 as far as where we're doing it. And if the board remembers, on a number of the tours that we've gone through, prior to being able to create a little bit of space at Matthew Thornton, because we dropped some classes, we were having resource rooms up in the hallway and out and up on landings. So part of what we're looking at is trying, in one sense, it's kind of a plus, in that with some drop in enrollment, it's actually allowing us to pull some kids back into a classroom where before they were being instructed in a landing. So I think that's really critically important. So when I look at the overall, and the way you looked at it, George, is appropriate.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, keep in mind, I completely understand that's one small piece.
Absolutely.
That whole puzzle.
Yeah, absolutely. But looking at the overall stock and looking at where I think we want to go programmatically, or actually where we are programmatically, I think it's critical that we create the space. And then the other issue that we have is those modulars that were supposed to be temporary, or what, from the McKinley era or someplace, I think.
20 years old.
So
They're far
the
beyond.
ability to
safe life.
get rid of those and then provide some balance across the district, I think is key. That's just my 2 cents worth.
No, I think, I don't disagree with you, Nate. I think you're absolutely right. And with all those open questions, like you just pointed out, this could be, what if, this may be, these are the kind of things that, that we're looking at. And pardon my ignorance, but this is the first, other than, coming in on the tail end of North School.
Right.
This is really the first go-round I've had with this. So I guess my question is, with all those open questions on design and, utilization, those kind of things, is this the right time for us to go into D&E on a building that we're not sure what it's gonna look like, or what even our true needs are for that building? So I guess that's my question. Or are we premature in it?
I guess the question I have, or the item I have is, I think it's very valid what you're saying. I think it's almost 2 parts. I think the idea is, do we approve the contract? We don't have to expend the money. We could put a hold on the money, wait until they come in with answer to questions, and then release it at that point, instead of, yes, we agree on the contract for the architect engineer, do the analysis part here, and that may be, you know what, we've got this part done, we've done our evaluation, and then, yes, we're going to build this year, or no, we're not gonna build this year, or we've got enough classrooms, we're never gonna build. And then the contract is, we approve the architect, the money is on hold until we get to that point.
I can give you the analysis of the overlay on projected space needs, which would include special ed as well as regular ed. We can give that to you in the beginning of June.
June 5th meeting,
Maybe a little bit after that.
then June 19th?
Yeah, we can give that to you, because we're pretty much down the road on it, and I felt comfortable in talking to you about it because of the work that we've already done, we've already started on it, so we can do that. And I think just looking at what those preliminary numbers are and what we've got for preliminary needs, it's just a matter of trying to fit everything in around everything else that's going around, but we can pull that together pretty quickly. And I think present a very convincing case.
Ron, in the scenario you just set forth, if that money is held beyond the end of the fiscal year, doesn't it need to be returned because it hasn't been expended?
The money you're talking about is in fiscal year '08, which is the one that starts July 1st.
Okay, and my question is, if we don't decide between June '08, by June by June '08, at the end of that fiscal year, that 300 and whatever we just didn't we just vote?
210.
210 gets returned,
Does it get returned?
if it doesn't get spent?
If there's no appropriation, there's no encumbrance, and there's no contract, there's no,
What if there is a contract and we don't expend the dollars?
but,
I guess the question is for a specific purpose.
Right.
That we have the money. You're almost encumbering the money, I would think,
Right.
for that point in time.
Could.
We could release it, but we could save it for the next time. The voters voted for it to continue a specific
we
item.
probably need a vote towards the end of the fiscal year to encumber whatever X dollars is left over.
Yep.
Hey, Ron, can I add some clarity to this? Did we forget? We've already spent some of this money, because this is the second year. The voters approved a
Yes.
proportionate share of this. So when you look at the 348,530, a proportionate share of that has been spent for the work performed to date. So let's not forget that, just for clarity. The second issue is that, and I agree with George, we have not created a building committee. We've created a space needs committee that's looking at a project, and my experience on these projects in the past has been at the boards, and, you know, and I know Steve says it too, but I'm 1/5. But what the board has directed any space needs committee to do is to work with an architect to bring back to the board a conceptualized drawing, and it's just not a sketch. It's got to be a little bit detailed so that the board can then determine what number, you know, that 5.5 million's a rough placeholder. And we haven't talked to CIP yet,
Right.
but the board has yet to take action as to definitively what we wish to do with a building committee. But to get to that, we went to the voters, the most recent ballot, and the voters approved the
Phase 2.
direction to proceed with the schematics and the drawings, the replacement of the portables. We presented the dialogue relative to the special needs issues that we're going to address with that. Also some building code. We can go on and on about what it encompassed. But just for clarity, we have expended, because this is the second year that this has been on the ballot, or the school district's ballot. So there is a piece of this already spent. So it's not, I'm not so sure I agree with freezing this money. And maybe we'd have to ask the architect, what would that do for us if we enter into a contract and we say, well, if we decide to build it, Frank, we'll pay you at the end of the contract? Is that what we're
No,
talking
what I'm
about?
saying is,
I don't think that's.
What do we,
no,
what,
what
I'm
saying
confused.
is approve the architect.
Right.
We have the 19th, we have the meeting with the space needs, and I think that's the open question that board members are asking. At that point, it says, yes, we want to continue to develop the architect engineering drawings, continue it at that point. So that's what I thought we were looking for, or I think you're gonna get a postponement of everything until the 19th.
And what impact does that have?
And I'm saying is, I think that's two separate issues, and we're gonna debate the architect engineer at that point and whether or not you got the space issues.
I guess I'm still confused. Are we talking about that we're not even looking at continuance of the Space Needs Committee till the 19th? What's going to happen on the 19th? I'm confused.
I apologize.
Which
I
isn't
thought-
a
I
rare
thought-
thing.
I
but-
thought Nate was gonna present his elementary district-wide usage of the space.
I thought I heard that when we went to the voters to approve the warrant.
I think.
That's where I'm confused.
Yeah, I think, if I'm understanding the question, it's not, if I understand correctly, I don't think there's a board member up here that wants to continue with the modular classrooms. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So, with that in mind, the second question then becomes, what is the size of the addition or the replacement? Because it's not
Correct,
let me
it's a
say,
replacement.
it's a replacement.
Absolutely.
So, if you award the contract, and then simultaneously we give you the information, then that information would go into the hopper as far as what would be particular space dictated aside from replacing the classrooms. I think what the committee has said is, in looking at their space needs at this point, they believe they can reduce the number of classrooms at the school by 2 already. So two of the modular classrooms would go away. So the issue
That's
then
correct.
really is, what is going to be the size of the addition based on what overall elementary population would be and what would be the special needs. So by entering into the contract and us simultaneously giving you this additional information, that would then go into the hopper and dictate, let's say, let's make up something. Let's say that based on that information, we could reduce the addition by 1 classroom, or means we add in an additional room for a district-wide special ed program. But if the board's intention is to remove the modulars and replace that with brick and mortar, the question that we have is then how many rooms or what the configuration is, as opposed to whether or not we're just gonna leave the modulars there. So as you go through it and you develop it, as we've done with all the other projects, there were changes made along the way based on particular needs, whether it was redesigning some of the classroom space at North School, and adjusting the lobby area we did, and nurses, that all went into the pot. So if what we're talking about is replacement of all the modulars, with the Space Committee's recommendation reducing 2, or maybe you reduce 2 and say, well, maybe we need some additional resource space based on the needs of the other districts. I think that's the way that we can proceed. We'll give you the additional information, but I think if we go into the contract, that becomes part of the work that goes into what we're doing in getting the final plan, so to speak. Move ahead.
So in my mind, this brings us full circle. The rationalization for the fee was that it was approximately 6.34% of the project, but the project was based upon a placeholder of $5.5 million, which we really don't know if it's a $5.5 million project or a $3.5 million project, because we haven't established the final scope of the project. Hence, we don't know, really, we're not in a position to estimate what the project will cost. So if we enter into this contract, we've entered into a fixed price contract for a certain number of dollars for work. That's not necessarily based on the size of the project, just based on a project. Is that what we want to do?
Is it the percentage or is it a fixed cost?
Well, the rationalization, the justification for the fee in the memo, and as we discussed, is that it's 6.34%, which is a
Right.
reasonable number. I don't have a problem with that. But that is based upon a project of $5.5 million.
Yes.
But at this point, we don't know if it is a $5.5 million project or a $3 million project. I mean, just Nate went through a presentation explaining to us why we don't really have that pinned down. On one hand, I'm asking myself, if we're only replacing 9 classrooms plus hall space and some ancillary space, is that really worth $5.5 million? And just a rule of thumb tells me no, it's not. It ought to be a lower number, though I'm not an architect nor estimator. So I'm not opposed to spending some money to flesh out what the cost of the project will be. I'm maybe a little hesitant to commit to a fixed price on a project where we don't know the size of the project yet. Maybe there's some other middle ground here somewhere.
Well, I'll take a shot at that. We've had a South School Space Needs Committee that's been in force now for a better part of a year. And I listened to the superintendent's comments here, but I have to disagree. The South School Space Committee meeting has been reporting back to the board, and there is a project that has a scope assigned to it. And there was a cost estimate, and Frank, correct me if I'm wrong, that was put together relative to this number that we're talking about this evening. I don't know where 3.5 million comes from, but it was 5.5 million, and it defined a number of issues. It's not only classrooms, it's also the site itself, that we were talking about additional parking, that those of us that attended the deliberative session saw the presentations and the drawings. It also included the fire access road around the facility, much as North School. It also included renovations to the interior of the structure on some certain, not common areas, but bathrooms and nurse's office, and those of us that remember the North School project. It also took into consideration code renovations, I believe a sprinkler system, if I'm not mistaken.
Also, one of the major things not present in North School was electrical power needs to come into South School. That's one of the major.
Yeah, there's some site considerations there as well. So I take a little caution that, the South School Space Committee that we've been meeting hasn't done due diligence and has no idea what number, and Frank just throws out a $348,000 number. It's based on 5.5 that was addressed at the deliberative session. The board was in full attendance there and listened to the presentation. And if we wish to change the scope and size, then the board should direct the South School Space Committee meeting as to its determinant factor, and I guess we'll hold off till whenever, and forego this project. And if we give Frank a different scope, then I'm sure Frank would come back, or if you wish to interview other architects, come back with a different number. So there it is. But I don't want anybody to believe that 5.5 million is a number that was picked out of the air based on 9 classrooms. It's, it's a little bit more voluminous than that. So that's about all I have to say. So, if you want to defer it, it's certainly the chair's discretion, but that's where we stand.
It's the board's discretion. Yes, sir?
Oh, okay, I apologize.
Is there any work under this contract that needs to be performed between today and the end of June?
The word need may be the key word. We were hoping, obviously, to get approval for Frank's contract tonight, with the idea that he would obviously be integral part in assisting the group from now till June 15th actually, I just talked to the superintendent this morning about it. Between now and June 15th, it was our intention as a group to, Frank has already received a number of construction management proposals. The group was then gonna review the proposals between now and the 15th, pick 4, 5, 2, 3, whatever the number is, interview them, and then it was our intention to come to the board on the 15th with a recommendation of a construction manager, then to move forward in the summer months.
But I guess, if I could, Mr. Chair, I guess the answer is no, Steve, because it sounds like the board would like to readdress the scope of the project and have the superintendent represent the needs for whatever we're doing down there. So, Frank, I'd have to say no to Steve's question. There's no monies, or why would you bring in construction managers without knowing the scope of the project that we're going to do?
I was under the impression we knew the scope of the project.
But I guess not, so.
Well, that's all right. We can take a step back.
Wait, time out for a second. Sure. Steve?
Thank you. Just so I can finish my process. No, I don't think that we know the scope of the project, at least not the entire board. I don't think that we've had a reasonable amount of time to discuss it in public. I think that the superintendent's offered to present that on June 19th. I also, however, would like to put in my comment on the selection of an architect on the project. Based on Frank's performance in the past, what he's done in our school system, based on the going rates, the street rates of what the charges are and what he's charging us for this, the discounts that he's provided, I'm very comfortable in giving my personal commitment as 2/10 of the board to Frank for these projects. However, I'm not comfortable saying we know exactly the direction that we're going to take with the construction of South School, except that we need to replace the 20-year-old portable stick-built wood.
George? Okay.
Not where I was going, so.
I guess, what is the board's pleasure on this now, on the contract? I'm wait till the 19th?
I was following Nate's lead. I mean, if he's reevaluating space requirements, I guess I would like to have that information. I apologize for either not having done my homework or not having kept up on this. I haven't seen the report from the Space Needs Committee. And so I'm sitting here based on my knowledge of what happened with North School, which was a great project, and I'm certainly very pleased with the work that Frank has done for us in the past. I wasn't aware that we were spending $5.5 million down at South School. So that's my, not having stayed up with this, but, so if Nate's gonna reconsider or has new information, or
What I,
like to wait for that.
yeah, my plan, because what I was hearing was, he was concerned about total number of classroom stock, right? And we're gonna come back and say, look, here's what the classroom stock is now. Here's what's being utilized. Here's what we anticipate being utilized, regular ed and special ed. And I'm looking at the 3 elementary schools. And with the idea that we would be reducing South School by 2, the idea to demonstrate that in fact we need that addition, the replacement over there. That was my intent as far as coming forward with it. If the question is, do I think we need to replace what we have at South School? I think the answer is yes. Do I think, after I show you all the numbers, that it's going to demonstrate that the classroom stock that we have minus those 2 are necessary? The answer to that is going to be yes, too.
Okay, what is the board's pleasure?
I, for one, would like to get a better understanding of what you talk, what kind of space that we're talking about, what the uses of that space is, what your plans are to look at these other schools, because that's gonna be an integral part of what happens at South School. And right now, I just don't understand that, because I'm basing it on a single presentation of the Space Needs Committee that said we were going from 11 portables to 9 classrooms. And what Dan was saying about, the sprinkler systems, bringing it up to code, electrical, and those situations. So, and again, I'll follow Ben's lead, and maybe it's my own fault, I didn't ask enough questions, I didn't look at it enough, or whatever, but I'm not comfortable that, that I've got a good understanding of what's going on down there, and what the needs of the district going forward are based on current enrollments, projected enrollments. I mean, I don't know what Andre and Tim are looking at over on the town side, if they're thinking there's gonna be a lot of housing that's gonna be affordable to people with elementary school kids. As we've spoken before, when I put my house up for sale, there's nobody gonna buy it with elementary school kids. Most likely, it'll be middle schoolers and high schoolers. Only because of where Londonderry's priced on the market at this point. So I just want to get a better understanding for that, and I apologize for delaying, the process, but it's too important. And as I said earlier, I mean, we owe it to the, to the kids and to the people of this community to make sure that at least the 5 of us understand what's going on. And I don't have a good feeling that all 5 of us do.
I'm the guy that asked us to move Frank up from the end of the meeting to the beginning of the meeting. So I will say on my part, I don't want to waste Frank's
Right.
time. And I think that until we have that conversation on the 19th, we're wasting Frank's time. And to me, it doesn't appear that we risk anything. I think the board's made it clear to me there's a consensus here to continue with Frank as our architectural representative on the project. We just need to discuss completely with the community the project. We need to be able to articulate it to the community so that they understand the project, and that we can vote and set the sails on the ship in the right direction for the project.
Okay. I guess the consensus is to just postpone the whole.
One other question, is there a tab sheet for the 5.5? Do we have, is there a document that I haven't?
I will be sending it to you tomorrow. There's no tab sheet, Ben. It's a conceptual drawing, and based on construction prices, it's Frank, as a consultant to the group's best estimate of what the project will be. The idea was then to take that drawing, get more detailed drawings to the construction manager, and then come with the GMP later on.
But did we do rough estimates for parking, fire
Yes.
access,
Yes.
internal?
Yes.
That document is out there somewhere.
Yes.
I apologize because not having tracked it down. but-
You'll get it tomorrow morning.
Okay.
Okay, can I make a suggestion? What I would like to do, if I can get the board's consensus, is I hear a consensus to approve Frank as the architect for $0 and take that part of that off the table, that Frank, we approve Frank for an architect for $0. The 19th, we'll start firming up the dollar amount as we start looking at the price and what the project looks like.
I don't want Frank to think he's not worth anything, but I'll try a motion of, that the board recognizes that Frank Marinese is the architect of record for the project at South School.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? 5-0.
No, said I.
Okay, I didn't hear it. Okay, thank you very much, Frank.
Thanks for your kind words.
Thanks, Frank.
Appreciate it.
Okay, moving along at breakneck speed. Sue, you want to do technology? Before you go to New Mexico?
Didn't you say that you had a copy of that presentation?
Mary? That was 5-0? Thank you.
No, it came through email. Via email?
Hi,
Good evening.
good evening.
Actually, the board has in its package 3 memoranda from myself, from Mr. Blunt, and from Peter Curl regarding this particular item on your agenda, as well as another memo from Brian Balke that has relationship to this item, and I know you'll be discussing that memo from Brian later. But this is an update to the board on technology efforts and implementation in this current school year and as we go into the next school year. So for the sake of our folks at home who are viewing, the board, my memo to the board just iterates that we gave the board after-action reports, which are a template we now employ out of the Technology Steering Committee regarding a number of initiatives that were launched this year. And those include Alpha Smart Labs at LMS, Alternative Staff Development or Teachers Academy to Go, Assistive Adaptive Technologies as they relate to identified students, Curriculum Mapping, our Dibbles data system, Distance Virtual Education Efforts, the district-wide subnet, elementary printers, the Interactive Results Manager, Library Automation, Munis HR Module, the Scott Forsman Math Online Textbook for grades 4 and 5, the Scott Forsman Social Studies Program for grades 4 and 5, the Prentice Hall Social Studies Program for grades 6 and 8, and high school economics, ongoing website development, and World Languages Advanced Placement Spanish effort that involved MP3 players. As of this status report, there are very minor updates on those initiatives. And what those include are that our printers to support the use of specialized software program for students are being rolled out in the elementary schools, and computers and related devices for the specific students we had identified under assistive adaptive technologies have been acquired. Mark Blunt has given you a memo in the package regarding curriculum mapping, and I don't know if he wants to come up and maybe give you a little update of his own on that one.
This project has kind of been an evolutionary project. Some of the actions that have taken place this current school year, we have completed the reorganization of the benchmark database onto an internal website so teachers can access those easily at any level, any grade level, elementary, middle to high school. We've also developed the integration of assessment data from elementary to high school on an internal web page. So, for example, Mrs. Slozak, she could go to her computer, look up her kids' Iowa scores, Dibbles results, all on one page. So it makes it very nice for teachers, administrators to access and to use the data in their curriculum and instruction. In the piloting phase right now, in fact, a number of our pilot teachers at the schools, as well as our elementary administrators, we, through the assistance of Tom Cranmer, we've developed an input and reporting feature for the inputting of next year's Reading Streets, the Scott Forsman Reading Program unit benchmark assessment data, so that information can be reported and we can show growth at the class level, grade level, by school or by all elementary. And a project that's in the works for fall is also to do a similar kind of feature in the area of math with our common assessments, particularly at grades 1 through 3, that we have nearly completed the piloting phase. So that's kind of where we're at on the curriculum mapping.
Can I ask you a question? Oh,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
no, I thought Mark.
The question I was going to ask you, Mark, was, as I look at curriculum mapping and all this information that you're collecting on scores and all this, how much of this is going to be required by you to submit to the state and the federal government as part of the ongoing assessment evaluations?
This is basically, while we are, while we have NECAP results in this database, our own internal database, so our teachers can use, a lot of it is for our own use. A lot of it is tracking our own data internally for our own programs, our own curriculum, and our own instruction. So what we're attempting to do is to meaningfully use the data to drive our curriculum and instruction, and with the support of the IT department and Tom, we've made some nice strides this past school year in this area.
Dan?
Mark, you mentioned the curriculum mapping of the pilot program. Could you just give us an example of how you're going to utilize that data?
Well, I think what we'd like to do eventually is to be able to have on a database system for our teachers, be able to have easy to use maps so they can access the curriculum electronically. A lot of our work right now, if you look at our elementary toolkits, our middle school and high school, a lot of them are in paper binders. And
You mean our toolkits?
Yeah, our toolkits.
Sure.
And we'd like to get more and more of this information into an electronic system so teachers at a grade level can see what's going on as well as above and below them. So I think it'll just enhance the big picture, so to speak, that teachers will have access to in a better way, I think.
I guess I understood that was where we were trying to go. My question was, what would be different with mapping our pilot program? You said map our pilot program.
Okay, the question I was referring to...
Maybe I misunderstood.
Yep. Let me go back. Another feature of this mapping piece is also the collection of data and using that data to drive instruction.
Right.
This past year, we have had our elementary pilot reading teachers. They have been using the unit assessment benchmark tests as part of the pilot. We have developed an electronic system through Tom's assistance to enter this data for reporting purposes and also for teachers to use the data in a meaningful way. So that's the pilot, I guess, that I was talking about.
Ron, last.
Go ahead.
So are we going to use it to make, more than likely, we're going to adopt the literacy program, I would assume, much as we probably have with the math and determinant factors over, because most of the work on a pilot program's done on the selection of the pilot program to begin with. But are we going to use this to flesh out what we like about the program, what we don't, through the assessment results that we see, or whatever Tom's
Certainly
developed
we will
in
be
the
able to do
piloting
that.
tracking?
Certainly we will be able to do that.
That was the gist of my question. Thank you.
Yep.
Just continuing on in terms of updates of current initiatives. We do have a distance virtual education initiative, and Mr. Elefante, Mr. Blunt, myself, and several other people from the high school are going to investigate feasibility of participation in virtual high school, which is a consortium effort that allows students to take coursework over the internet using computers. And if we deem that there are some appropriate opportunities for us and that our infrastructure can also handle that, then we will go back to the Technology Committee with an update on that particular initiative. But that is a kind of a new wrinkle we're investigating. Peter will give you an update on Eunice HR very shortly. And in terms of website development, we recently did a high school redesign, and that provides a more dynamic homepage for that school. And there are more resources available to visitors to that website. And we thank people who gave us some input. After we launched it, we redesigned a couple things, and people have responded. We've gotten a lot of remarks on the ease of the use of that website. And I did make some changes to the action roll-up sheet. I have to remember what these things are called. I'm still getting used to them myself, but that reflect kind of the overview of the cost of these initiatives, the costs and times, what we estimated, what really happened. So I have updated that for you for this meeting. In regards to where we are now, the Technology Steering Committee is concentrating on implementation of initiatives which were approved for 0708, which include a 2-year initiative, a math initiative that will impact both the high school and the middle school. And this is an instructional learning software that we will implement next year at Londonderry High School, and the following year focusing on the middle school. Of course, I think you're familiar with the Music Theory Computer Lab that will be installed at Londonderry High School over the summer, and which will be of great benefit to our music students. We are refreshing some equipment for regular ed video and vocational video students at the high school, as well as acquiring some additional equipment because enrollments have increased in those areas. We will be adding a module to our library automation-based system, which will allow curriculum coordinators at the high school to do inventory tracking of textbooks. There will be an upgrade to the existing high school video security system, which will improve security services at the building. Mr. Carl will talk to you about replacement workstations across the district, and he will also address issues regarding network hardware and servers. As I was reviewing my memo to you, probably should have also included, although I think it's referred to in Peter's memo, that one of the other things that we are doing, and I know you've heard about this before through your representatives coming back with their liaison reports, we are looking to address the need that the state has indicated to us we have to address in terms of development of a digital portfolio for students. So that is also being looked at, and most specifically right now at the middle school, because the state has targeted us to get that in place there first. But Peter also has to consider that in his report, because that makes a significant change in what way we go, how infrastructure might be impacted, so those variables. Yes.
The state has targeted us.
Not us, everyone.
The state has targeted all of the school districts in the state of New Hampshire and tasked them with having digital portfolios for every student.
Well, they have said that we need to have a portfolio system for students. And they have said that that could exist. They've given us some specific criteria that we must address, a rubric, if you will, that we must include certain types of student material. The desire of the state is that we move to digital, because for us to maintain this in hard copy would be almost impossible. It would mean a huge binder system following students that we would have to store. But one of the reasons, or one of the criteria that we have to meet is to make this accessible and portable for both the student and so that parents can access this. So this is,
It's a two-part question. And the amount of funds the state's providing to this?
yes, I thought the same thing myself, that, again, this is very similar to the issue that Mr. Balke faces with some of what the state would like his program to do, but
So
they
the
are not
answer's
providing us any
no funds.
funding, yes, no.
All right. Those of you in the community, if you get an opportunity, go to the nh.gov website and go to the Department of Education website. And if anyone can count the number of people that work there, let me know. I've been unable to come up with the number.
Well, we are trying to look and address that particular issue because we have a lot of concerns about it as well. I'm sure, again, Peter addresses it, I believe, on page 3 in his memo, that means that we have to look at storage solutions and how can we do this to make this if we have to do it, make it meaningful for the student, parent, teacher, but make it cost-effective on our end because it certainly could become a tempest in a teapot. I didn't mean to neglect to address that issue, but I simply, with everything else going on. And one other update I should have included here, or two others. I think that's 3, no, just 2, is that our technology plan, which is a 3-year, multi-year plan, was approved by the state for only 1 year, which means it expires June 30th. And the reason they could only approve it for 1 year was because we only submitted a budget for 1 year. Because our technology committee felt it was not able to forecast out 2 years of a technology budget with no input from the people who pay the bills. So we have recently, based on the passage of the school district budget and whatnot, been able to provide an update to our plan, and that has been submitted with actual dollar figures. So hopefully we will get an extended plan through next June, and the same thing will happen. But that is done. And also, I know that Dan is serving on this subcommittee and has kept the board updated, but the other issue is the platform committee will be coming to the technology committee next Tuesday with their final report. They're working on that as we speak, but you've been fairly updated. And I have one other thing to say is that IT has been using the updated utilization matrices that we developed to look at how we're going to acquire and deploy computers. And again, Mr. Balke will be up here with an initiative template out of the technology committee, which the tech committee has endorsed, which addresses the needs for some technologies in SPED case management. And I also thought it a very interesting report, and I included a copy for you, which is a research report on the status of technology in schools in New Hampshire. And I believe the score, the grade that New Hampshire gets for technology was C or D+. At any rate, they look at things in terms of student-to-computer ratio and in terms of whether or not we're delivering certain kinds of services. And it was an interesting report to look at, because I think sometimes people feel we are as connected as the business world or other sorts of organizations. And even though I believe we do an excellent job with what we have, and that maybe one-to-one computing is not going to be in our future, I nonetheless think that that it's important for people to understand that there are a lot of other states and a lot of other school districts with a lot more abundance, but I think we really deliver an excellent program.
nonetheless. So that is my report, and I'd be happy to answer any questions, and then I'm very happy to turn the rest of this agenda item over to Mr. Corral.
Any questions from the board? Audience? Seeing none? What about Peter?
Thank you.
My memo focused on four areas. Kind of a year in review. Superintendent asked me to give the board an update and some of the, I'll say, major projects or impacted projects that the IT department undertook over the past year. Number two is areas of concern. A brief description of the hardware and where the hardware is going. And then number four is an update to the, on the committee's work to select a new student information system. A couple areas that as I mentioned in my memo, remote access to the network was a major undertaking that has been successful, has paid dividends. The use of the Citrix server has provided close to 70 people with access to not only the network, but their desktop, i.e., they have the ability to emulate their desktop from, I use the word work, and retrieve any documents that they would if they were on the network in their office. The other one, as a direction of the board, was email purging. This has gone fairly well. We did send out probably more than we needed notices in the first two purgings, but it worked out well. I haven't heard too many complaints, at least the first two, and the third one was I didn't hear any complaints. There is one caution, however, and that is, although we knew obviously that the number of storage on the Exchange server would go down during the purging, we did anticipate, and my memo points out, there has been an increase in storage or data storage on, as I call them, the home directories. Not as much as being erased from the Exchange server, but there is that transfer as people are saving emails and moving them over to their home directories. One of the things that I mentioned in that paragraph, the next step, I think the IT department, along with Ed Tech and administration's input, will be over the summer and certainly, hopefully, as the year opens, school year opens, to come up with some maximum ranges of sizes of folders that particular staff and employees can grow. That would be the next step as far as trying to put a limit on the size of folders. Yeah. One of the biggest things that we got moving in the IT department, and this is still undertaking, and it will be ready for the summer, is as I call it, the automated push of updates. This we've already tested it once in one area, and we feel this will be a huge savings of labor, especially over the summer, but also during periodic times when Windows and other areas, other services send periodic updates. We're able to push them through the network and get them installed on the end users. One of the holdbacks on this was the fact that we, on many computers over in the buildings, have a program called Deep Freeze. Just so everyone's aware, what Deep Freeze does is it freezes the hard drive and all the computers, so that if by chance a program is installed on the hard drive and let's say it contains a virus, that program and virus would be saved on the hard drive up until the point where the computer is turned off. And anything that was installed on the hard drive with Deep Freeze would be erased or deleted. Obviously, that raises an issue that if you're going to do updates, you've got to be able, as the program uses the term, put the hard drive into thaw, allow the update to go through, and then refreeze the hard drive. And we've been able to, with the work of Brandon, Tom, and Ron Campbell Jr., the three of them have been able to do that. We use the middle school as a pilot, and we will be using this service throughout the district over the summer. as Susan mentioned, Munis Online module. This project, through the course of several delays, is probably about 1 year behind. Originally, we wanted to get this going about a year ago than today, but between the segmentation of the network and then then from the segmentation network, we then went and installed the new web-based library system. And by the time we got through those two projects, in order to meet the deadlines of HR for the open enrollment, we wouldn't have made it. Then, of course, over the summer, we had people on the staff leaving the IT department. We had to get them up to speed. I'm happy to say that this summer, we'll be rolling out the HR online module in a read-only basis. What this module allows is, for the first year on a read-only basis, employees will be able to read or view their benefits, taxes, deductions online, whether it be, what health plan, what dental plan, what their tax, how many deductions they're taking, how many sick days, vacation days, so forth and so on. The other part of this module, it will allow those employees that receive payroll notification via direct deposit, that will be available on an email basis. Meaning what happens is, right now, my funds are direct deposited to the bank. I get a notification on paper that says I've earned X dollars with deductions, taxes, or whatever. What the system will allow us to do is send an email to pcarroll@londonderry.org. It'll be an Adobe file. You double-click on the Adobe file. The password will be the employee last 4 digits. You type in the last 4 digits, and the program opens up, and it emulates what I get on a paper now. The advantages of this is obviously the savings of paper, but also the advantages that I see is the employees can print it wherever they have access to a printer, whether it be at the school district or at home. Save it to a folder so they can keep a record of all their paychecks on bi-weekly basis. And I think that comes in handy, as I mentioned, as I go around the buildings, those of us that have kids in school, when you can update your FAFSA, you've got your latest tax information right there, pull it down, print it, and then go ahead and do your stuff. So that is just another way of storing payroll or tax information on an electronic basis. Our goal or our plan is a year from now to flip the switch from view or read only to the ability for employees to read, view, edit, and change benefits. So if all goes according to plan, a year from now, during the open enrollment process, if I don't know, a young couple has a first child, they want to go from a 2-person health plan to a family plan, they don't have to go to the HR department. They can go on this secure website, change their health plan enrollment. It'll be sent down to the HR department. It'll be reviewed and then implemented online. The idea is to streamline the process, make personal information available to employees, and obviously cut down on paper and cut down the amount of time in the HR department, and maybe expedite the process of the open enrollment process.
Why are we waiting a year from the read-only?
What we want to do is, this has, how do I say this? We want to do a year of read-only to take this as slow as possible, to first make sure that we're all comfortable as the employer, and to make sure that the employees are also comfortable, and give them a year to simply get comfortable, get them familiar, let them go to the site and understand what's going on. And then, because from now, we've already missed the enrollment period. So what we'll do is, we'll probably slowly be testing changes online, but then the major part will start about a year from now, when we'll actually roll it out, introduce it, so forth and so on. It'll actually be less than a year from now, because we want to get it ready when the open enrollment process starts.
why wouldn't we leave the tax portion of it open so that people can change their own tax statuses and portions right now? I could understand the enrollment portion, that makes sense, that comes out once a year for 30 days or whatever the period of
Right.
time. Why wouldn't we just keep the other part of it open so that people could, if they want to increase or decrease their deductions or make those changes, why couldn't they do that online? I mean, they would do it if you came in and get a hard copy of it.
Well, I understand what you're saying, and I'll leave it where if I'm more than willing, if Susie and I, Nate and others are comfortable earlier, I have no problem doing that. I think when Susie and I and Nate looked at this, we wanted to go as slow as we could to make sure that there were no mistakes made, that you know, the security's there and so forth and so on. If it's working well, I see no reason, as you're pointing out, to opening up that piece earlier, and if things are going well, I've no problem coming back to the board and telling you we're able to do that. The
Ron?
Yes, I'm sorry, Dave.
sorry,
Just real quick. So we have this module.
yes,
What's the cost of this?
we paid, I think it was
I'm sorry, I don't know if
$3,500
everybody
a
heard me.
year, maybe 2 years ago, a year ago, I'm sorry.
But we're still paying it, right?
No, you pay the module one time, and then it gets rolled into the
The annual maintenance.
annual support, annual maintenance fee, yes.
So we're currently paying for it. To Ron's point, we're paying for something that we're,
Not using 100%,
right.
correct.
So if the benefits to the employee base, then my recommendation would be, since we're paying for it, let's escalate it a little bit. I don't think you need a year to test it.
I understand.
That's my thought.
I think we're
I
trying
thought
to
we
err
bought it.
on caution to make sure that we don't go too fast and start allowing changes to be made.
But I assume there are certain fields that they're not allowed to change to begin with. Tax withholdings. You still need to sign W-4, do you not? Or can I go in and just change my own tax withholdings without alerting the HR department and there's no records on file?
You would change it in the.
Or my dependents or,
You don't have to file W-4, you're able to just go.
no, on that, but,
You would make the appropriate change online,
okay, so,
and the system is designed to alert those in either employees in the particular departments that are required to make the necessary changes.
I guess I don't understand the year, but just, I thought we had bought it, so,
Yeah, we did. I'm just saying, it's just.
fair enough.
I don't, the tax part of it seems to be a very simple module that, you know, I have that at work.
Right.
I mean, any employee can come in and fill out a
Right.
W-4 right here, and they make any changes. You're not gonna say yay or nay to it. It's their choice, so I mean.
Certainly look into it. You
That's
know, I
what-
couldn't
that's
tell you
what I meant
tonight
by it.
whether it's all or nothing, but we can look into it, and if we're comfortable, we'll accelerate it.
Okay, thank you.
Fair enough.
On part two, the areas of concern as we move forward into the summer, and then as, not too far, we start doing FY09 budget. As I mentioned here, the two areas looking at is the bandwidth and disk storage space. We believe we have, or will be taking care of the disk storage space by the purchase of what was called in the budget process, the storage server, which is a large capacity storage. The idea, for those who, during the budget process, the idea of the storage server is to bring in all the home directories that are located throughout the buildings and bring them all into one server, and thereby cutting down the amount of traffic as well as cutting down the amount of backup time. Bandwidth is still an issue, and we are reviewing several ideas on how to tackle this, but unfortunately, I have to report that we are still maxing out the bonded T1 lines between the times of 9:30 and 2 o'clock, pretty much every 5 days a week, which obviously is the amount of time that the high school is up and running.
Steve?
This is the 925 flash round. The size of the server?
The storage server, Is that what you're asking? We're buying 3 servers. There's 2 regular servers for production.
You're buying 3 servers, the size of each server?
And the storage server, I believe, is 1 terabyte of storage.
And you said you're buying 2 others?
Yes. I have them somewhere. They're the normal servers that we've purchased throughout the years for I'll call them production servers.
They're less than that in size. The price?
The estimated price for, I'll call it the 2 production servers is 6,000 HP servers. And the data storage, the estimated price is still 12,000.
Okay. 12,000 for the terabyte server?
Yes.
Okay.
As we call it, the data storage server.
Yep. Thank you.
The main, other than the servers, as we mentioned through the budget process, the main initiative for the workstations is a 2-year process to replace what we've commonly referred to as the Power Leap workstations. There were approximately 140 of them. The budget calls for 70 of them to be replaced this year, and obviously 70 replaced next year. These are workstations that had undergone major upgrades back in 2002 or 3, and they were before then already 2 or 3 years old, so they've been around a while. These are the ones commonly referred to as I mentioned, Power Leaps. They have had numerous network issues amongst this group of workstations. Most likely, the most common one is jumping off the network, their inability to stay in the network, especially if they are turned off or go down, let's say for, obviously power outages. Each one has to be manually connected to the network, which takes somewhere in the order of 20 to 30 minutes apiece. They're old, and as I mentioned, they are the number 1 issue for workstations in the IT department. And Susan, I think, had gone through, and then the other 35 computers to be replaced is the middle school lab. I think it's in room 173, and then those will be redeployed to Maria Salvatore's lab at the middle school. And my final piece on number 4, Nate had asked me, since we're talking about technology, and to give a brief update on the committee's search for a student information system. This was requested in the upcoming FY08 budget through the capital lease. It was asked to be postponed until the following year, but the board wanted the committee to complete its work, go through the selection of vendors, interview the prospective vendors, conduct the on-site visits, so forth and so on. We have done all that, and the committee, I believe, is down to 2 vendors that it's currently discussing amongst themselves as to which one to bring to the forward to the board for recommendation. Our hope is with the consultant to have a recommendation to the board mid to late summer, which would be obviously just before the kickoff of developing the FY09 budget, and obviously this will be put in, again, to be requested through the capital lease.
Questions on Peter's report? See you none? Okay. Next item is the April enrollments.
Yes, you have the enrollment figures in your packet. Total enrollment, looking at pre-K through 12, including our special education out of district students, home study, and adult ed, is 5,453, which is down 2 from last month. We've seen our LEAP enrollment continues to increase. We're up 1. Moose Hill enrollment kindergarten has stayed the same, 298. North School's enrollment went up 1. Matthew Thornton went up 1. South School went down 1. Middle School stayed the same. and high schools was down 4.
Questions on the enrollments? Seeing none. CIP update.
Yes.
Again, this is just a preliminary, just so we have it available to us for our next meeting.
Yes, I thought the CIP committee will have its first meeting on the 24th of May. As the board is aware, I emailed to the board the entire document that was finished by last year's CIP committee. And in the packet was just a simple, the spreadsheet showing the projects that were on the last year's committee, last year's spreadsheet for the school, and then a copy of the projects that were requested by the town. Obviously, there are gonna be some changes because, as we know, the conservation bond failed in March, and North School Fire failed in March. So obviously, the committee will be wrestling with what to do with those 2 projects. And I'm assuming on June 19th, we'll have an update of the cost and where to put South School project. So I put this here as to kick off the idea of start thinking about where and what projects the board wants to request the CIP committee to review. And
Questions on the CIP?
This is not the final document?
No. Yes, sir.
No.
That was the only question, reconciling the 3.6 versus 5.5 for
Thank you. Yes.
2009.
Yeah, it was way a long time ago. It was estimated at $4 million, so 400,000. If you see, and 08 plus 3.6 gets you to 4 million. This was done before the presentation of the board in December with the estimated 5.5. So if that figure remains, that would be obviously one of the changes to this document and then given to the CIP committee.
Basically, this is the CIP report from last year, and that's why it's at the $4 million. And it'll be updated as necessary as we go through the CIP process in the board. Any other questions?
No.
I have one question, Mr. Chairman. Do you, on the bottom, it says we have the, way out in 2012 and 13, the auditorium. A few years ago, it was put on as part of the school projects. Do you want me to leave it to where it is on the spreadsheet, or do you want me to include it up in the top where it says summary of capital projects for school? Just a semantics on where you want to put this.
I'd leave it where it is.
I'd leave it exactly the way it is.
Okay.
For the time being. Yep.
Why does it matter?
Okay, seeing no questions on that,
So we're gonna come back to
we're
this.
coming back to this at our next meeting. Okay, next one is the Mr. H Driving School.
Yes. If the board remember, last year, we approved Mr. H Driving School as as one of the 2 vendors supplying driving ed classes to the district. And it came about through the process where Saul's Driving School was the original vendor. Saul was splitting off services or shrinking its supply of driver's ed services. And going through the minutes, the board agreed to enter in a contract with Mr. H for 1 year and with 2 option years. And the only reason the board was likely to go further than that was Mr. H, being a startup company, wanted 1 year's review to make sure that Mr. H could deliver the quality services that the school district and community expected to receive, that he lived up to his end of the bargain, providing the classrooms, providing the street, driving, so forth and so on. I contacted Mr. Elefante to ask him what he has heard, and as I stated in my memo, he has heard nothing but success from Mr. H's driving school. And my recommendation would be to allow to execute the 2 option years, making it the full 3-year contract for Mr. H's driving school. I think he's done a nice job. He's fulfilled all his duties and services of the driving school.
Motion to approve Mr. H driving school?
So moved.
Second? Second. Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
With the board's, it's 9:35. With the board's permission, I'd like to postpone the curriculum status report because I think that'll be a long discussion, and at 9:30 at night, I don't think that's the right time to do it. I think that should be done earlier in the meeting. Any problem? Okay. I'm going to now, we have three other topics. What I'm going to do is go to a couple of the others before I hit the copies, and that'll be the last topic. I'd like to go to the joint discussion, so we have that information we can send over to the town council on the joint meeting for the budget committee and town council meeting. I had several information that people have given me. I've listed them over there. You want to talk about it? One of them is additional time at the cable studio for instruction. The IT committee report, operational maintenance on the walkway that is going in front of the schools, shared energy program, creative solutions to deal with the retirement issues on the town and school side, and utilization of the high school gym for town evacuation site when an emergency site is to be declared, and how to make this happen. Okay. Can we get there's a lot of topics here and each group is doing it. Can I have the top three for the group? And, or let's, I think the IT, personally, I think the IT report is a mandatory type of report. I think we have to do that. I think number 6 is an excellent one personally. I think that's something that we should do, and that's almost like a joint committee between the town and the school district to make that happen. So
Item 1, I brought up a year ago at the last joint meeting.
Okay.
2 years.
Well, then the year before that, too.
Yeah, and I think that's critical to our curriculum.
Right.
So it's got to be there. I mean,
Okay.
as long as the
In
town's going
agreement
to
with
But
continue
we
to
need to,
control the cable studio.
but here's an example, though. We need to find a way to come out of this meeting
With the
with
solution.
action being taken,
yes.
Correct.
rather than waiting a year. Because the students are getting older. And we heard that there's growth in that program.
Right.
Right.
Yes, I think one's got to be there. I agree with you, Ron.
But I don't know that, I don't know that we should artificially restrict. I mean, the board I didn't give any of these ideas. The rest of the board provided these ideas. Maybe we should toss them all on the table, and then the budget committee and the town council, says, 1 or 2 fall off.
Yeah, but we should recommend which ones.
Okay, well, how about if we,
fall off.
okay, then let's put them in a priority order.
That's
what he's asking
that's what I'm asking
Okay.
for.
All right, let's keep negotiating that, sorry.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to get to. Number 3 would be the utilization of the high school gym.
Ron, I brought that one up due to the fact that we've been talking about this for quite some time. And, Londonderry isn't isolated to catastrophic events. In the last 2 years, we've had needs. And as I approached George with this as well due to his alert status and volunteerism on that. And a couple years ago, we had to put some senior citizens in the South School gym. And, I mean, it's there. It's
Actually, we did
so.
that this past February as well.
Oh,
So-
yeah, we did it twice in the last 2 years. So I
Twice
think
this
we
year.
need to escalate this because we have the shower facilities, we have food, we have,
If I-
and it's programmed for the generator too, so.
No, and you're right. And in fact, back in September, the town council appointed Emergency Management Council, made up of Chuck Zappola, myself, a
You
couple
mentioned
other
that,
alert people, fire and police. So that's one thing that we're actually working on. So I don't know what benefit it would have to the joint committee, because that Emergency Management Council, actually, Chuck's working on a
Then that's fair.
proposal for the generator.
It's just that I
So
think
that's really being addressed. I'd be happy to give an update
maybe,
at the joint meeting.
That, maybe it's. we
Maybe
call it an
that's
update.
sufficient.
You know, where we are and what we're doing.
I was just trying to,
That'd be perfect.
we've been talking about it, but I was just trying to
It's
escalate it.
definitely in action.
And when you called me that day after I proposed
Yep.
this and told me that, I was fine with
Yeah,
it.
I mean, it's
So I'll
definitely in
defer to
action.
that. If you could just update the
Yep,
joint committee,
absolutely.
I'd be fine with that, Ron.
Happy to.
Okay.
And as far as number 5 goes, I mean, creative solutions to deal with the retirement issues. That belongs to 400 people and 24 people sitting in Concord. So, I mean, I think that's more of a discussion for the state representatives than it is.
For us.
There's nothing that people in this town are gonna do. Although I think I read in the paper today, they wanna add another 2.5%.
Yes. Okay, so do you want to take 5 off the list?
I mean, I'm only throwing that out.
I think I'm-
we're gonna gain.
We're not going to do anything about it.
I mean, certainly this board's not. I don't know if you guys think we can do anything about it, but.
Okay.
So,
It's
I
off
mean,
the
I just
list.
think it'd be a waste of
I'd say,
time. so.
Ron, number 1, I agree with Steve. We've been presenting that for a number of years now.
That's
So-
core to these kids' curriculum. It's gotta be on, it's gotta be there. It's gotta be on the table for discussion.
Okay, and the next 2, shared energy program or operational maintenance on the walkway.
Well,
Which one comes next?
I'm sorry.
Shared
Well,
energy?
Shared energy program, we've saved over $1.5 million. Let's help save some money.
Okay, so let's make that number 4. And the last one would be the operational maintenance of the walkway. That's the priority list, and I'll send it over to Joe, and we'll get going. Okay. Next topic, Mr. Balky.
Yes.
Good evening. I will highlight briefly the comments of the memo that I submitted to the board. I come to you this evening seeking the board's permission for an initiative that has been endorsed by the Technology Committee. Probably over the last year or so, the board has heard me talk about a new program that the state is requiring us to enter significant amounts of data for every special education child in the state, called the Nessus system. We've had kind of a busy year standing up in opposition on several components of that and speaking out against some of what the Department of Ed has required. But that being said, what is unavoidable is the amount of time and the access to technology that will be required to enter the information into the state system. Data that's entered will factor into catastrophic aid, will factor into different kinds of entitlement. There's a financial component of this program that the department is just now rolling out that will factor into adequacy money that we will receive for special education in the years to come. So there's several components of it, and it's very time-consuming and very labor-intensive. This year, we were notified this past winter in December that we would receive a what they called one-time increase in our allocation for our IDEA funds. These are federal dollars, these are not state dollars, but we essentially received some unanticipated money and have been able to support, as you see in my memo, technology for instruction, software, testing supplies, some additional equipment. And the proposal I come to you with this evening is looking at computers and some technology hardware to support some shifting philosophies of how we do business for our special ed meetings. We would have the capacity with the proposal that I have here to have moved towards a paperless system, which in special education is a pretty paradoxical kind of thought, but essentially have the ability to have data projectors and computers to be able to put documents up on a screen. So when parents come in for a meeting, instead of having 12 copies of a 15 or 20-page document, that we would have a document up on the screen and have the capacity to change that document as we go through the course of the meeting. The other piece is that we went through with this, through the IT department as well as the ET department, we went through and did a comprehensive overview of what we have in terms of computers that are in confidential locations, where staff members can enter all of this information that's required for this new system, write their reports, write their student-specific kinds of plans. And what we found is we have a significant amount of lacking access where staff members can work on confidential information in a place where there are no students around or no other staff members around. The information that we're talking about is protected by federal statutes. And essentially what we wanted to look at was increasing the ratio of our professional staff to what their access to technology currently is. If you look at, after my initiative template, I did an overview of professional staff to secure computers and what the ratio was by school, and what I'm recommending for needed computers to get up to a ratio that would be 1 professional staff to 0.6 computers. Now, if you ask the special ed department, they'd like to see 1-to-1. Some districts have moved in that direction. At this point, I'm not recommending that. I don't think it's fiscally responsible at this point. There's a lot of variability in people's schedules. There's overlap. People can share machines. And what I'm proposing is the purchase of about $50,000 worth of technology through the federal dollars that we have allocated this year. We have until June 30th to spend that money. I already had to submit by the end of January a placeholder for technology. You can't submit any requests through this federal program after January, so we did submit an initial placeholder of about $70,000. After we have gone through our analysis, we came back and are not recommending that full purchase price, but are looking at just over $51,000.
Questions from the board? Steve?
The IDEA funds, are they not intended for direct student use?
They are
Do
intended.
you understand what I'm saying? Is it legal, moral, and
It is.
ethical to utilize the
It is.
funds for administrative purposes?
It is. In fact, with the Nessus program that we're now required to comply with, some districts are even using this money to pay for overtime to enter information into the system. Districts have the flexibility to use it to hire, say, an outside vendor to enter data into the state system. Years ago, there had to be a direct student-specific contact, in other words, a computer in a classroom that a child was using, but there's a little more flexibility with that now that we're able to use some of that for case management type purposes, because the indirect benefit to children and also the compliance of making sure that we get all of our data entered, which will drive our future fundings.
Thank you.
Steve, if you remember too, that during the budget process,
No, you know what? I don't want to go down during the budget process, because I just want to make this clear. There's nothing personal on this. We are 6 months behind on implementing an MIS position, and from this point onward, I'll be voting no on any technology. Nothing personal. Thank you.
Any other questions from the board?
Brian, would you provide just a template of the information that's required to be entered? Is it, apparently there must be some format, some structure to it, just not one that's filled out, but one that's empty, just a template? Could you provide that?
Could I provide that to the board?
I was just curious as to how much data has to be entered, the types of questions that they ask. I'm not interested in the answers, I'm just curious. There must be one screen after another that
It
appears.
is. It's one screen after the other.
Is it a book? Is it 20 pages, 5 pages, 100
What it
pages?
is it's an entire IEP document. The state has essentially mandated that we use what's called Easy IEP. The system Nessus has 2 pieces. First piece is it's an IEP software program, so that we have to go in and enter all kinds of information and generate a document. The secondary piece is entering administrative kinds of data, names, birth dates, evaluation. The Department of Ed wants us to submit entire evaluation reports on children, which we have taken a stand against it. We don't think that's appropriate. But so it's 2 pieces of it. It's the whole IEP document, and then it's this other administrative data that the state has to report, everything from dropout rates to percentages of kids in certain categories to the number of kids who receive more than so many hours of services a day. So they're kind of like screen on top of screen of how much stuff we have to enter. And it's kind of, we kind of have done sort of analysis in terms of how much time does it take to enter this stuff. And first glance we went through, we were looking at about 3 hours per student. So for a district our size, we were looking at well over 3,000 hours of just data entry. Interestingly enough, the Department of Ed, even though we're just finishing, getting at the end of the 06-07 school year, is making us go back in time and re-enter every piece of this information for anything that touched July 1st, 2006 on. So not only are we trying to write our plans for next year, we're trying to get our information in to make sure that we're in compliance for next year. We have to go back in time and enter information from last summer, all the way up to today. We have kind of a varying, I think the 3 hours is probably somewhere in the middle. We've had people who've been able to enter information faster, and I've had people who've come to me in tears saying that it took them hours and hours and hours. The access to the computers is a major factor of this. Mr. Curro spoke earlier about people being able to get onto our network remotely from home. The majority of those people are people who were doing this kind of work and who are accessing their documents and working on making sure that we get our information in compliance. I have to thank the staff. They have really stepped up on this initiative in terms of what we've been required to enter and have done a great job working. And our biggest thing all along was, we'll enter the information that the state needs us to enter, but we don't want it to impact the services to kids. So if we were to go along with what the state wanted, it would have required us to either hire an outside agency to enter all this information, or pay people overtime, or take services away from kids. And what we've been able to initiate with the state is, through the leadership of Kim Carpinoni and myself, we've been able to get the state, at least for this year, to reduce some of the requirements in terms of what's been required to enter. They've told us it's only for this year, and next year you're gonna have to go back to entering everything under the sun. But it is extremely time-consuming and labor-intensive, and my goal with this initiative is to give the people the tools they need to do this work.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, may I have a motion to accept the IDEA initiative?
Ron, I'd like to make a motion to, do we have to put the monetary considerations in? I'd like to make a motion to accept the IDEA initiative grant for $51,780.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any more
Discussion?
discussion?
If we had appropriate MIS management in this school district, we may in fact be able to increase the number of units so that you could have one per person instead of the 0.6 that we're doing. Thank you.
Any other further discussion? See,
Well, I'll make a motion.
we've got a motion and a second on the floor. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Opposed?
4-1. Okay. Next item we have is the copiers.
Yes, sorry, I'm taking notes down. In my memo, I answered some questions I think that were provided by Mr. Parker. The representatives of Northern Business Machines are here. If there are any further questions, my recommendation still stands to enter an agreement with Northern Business for the 27 various sizes copiers throughout the district.
Okay. Ben, you had some of these questions. Are they answered? Do you have some additional questions that you have?
This is the one I wish we weren't starting at 10 o'clock at night. Well, I had these questions, and I had looked at just one unit, which was the Sharp AR 257. And the question with regard to the specifications, and once I had what I thought were the specifications, I had just run them against the web to do just a cursory check on the price, because this unit's listed here at $43.25, and I had noticed that they were quoted at drop shipped for $2,400. So that raised the question in my mind, was working with a local vendor worth a $2,000 premium, assuming that I was working with all of the correct facts. And information I've been trying to sort out is whether or not I'm comparing apples to apples. And I'm still uncertain as to whether I'm comparing apples to apples. But based on what I see, it seems like there's a huge premium that we're paying for the privilege of being able to lease these machines over 3 years. And it's just occurred to me that perhaps with respect to some of this equipment, there might be a paradigm shift. And if it is true that we can acquire it for $2,400 instead of $4,300, perhaps we buy a few of the units as a test, put them in, and get service from either locally or, so with somebody within 25-mile radius, and approach it that way. I mean, there were a number of issues with respect to this, but I was just focusing on the cost of the equipment. So, but I don't have enough information to make a decision based on what I've got in front of me.
Peter, would you have an objection if we put this off for 2 weeks? Or our next meeting?
If that's the board pleasure, I can't, I have representatives from Northern Business who I did convey to Ben that the machines that he was seeing online, the website, where even though the model was the same, each of the machines that are going into the district have, I'll use the word accessories to them, whether it be a feeder, document sorter, some have scanning capability. Obviously, all of them will be loaded with toner, shipping. Northern Business, all the machines are shipped to Northern Business. Northern Business then sets them up, with all the other accessories, tests them out, delivers them to the district, and then provides any kind of training building personnel wants. That is not, as I mentioned to him, not part of the price that you see on that website. And that's the difference. And I think Vern is here, and I think he has a spreadsheet that kind of shows the base price and then the...
Come on, please come up here and sit at the microphone so we can,
Mr. Parker had gotten in touch with a company called Direct Source, which is a copier wholesaler. And he's right, he saw the price online at $2,399, which is the wholesale price just for the unit itself. Our quote included the base unit, the copy stand, the finisher, which provides the stapling. Also, the startup supplies are not included. That includes toner and developer. Also, freight, delivery, installation, and setup. I personally made a call to Direct Source today and spoke with the owner, his name's David, to confirm that the $23.99 did not include the additional items. I got a price from him, and it's the same as what we pay from the manufacturer because they are a distributor for the manufacturer. I have all the information, 4 items here on this document I'd be glad to give you.
Do you have copies for anyone?
Okay, I do.
How many copies do you have?
There's 4. You can have my original.
I'll make
Peter, I'll make the copies.
Pass those 4.
But if you total up all the items that are included in our proposal for that one specific model, we're looking at about a 10% markup from the prices from Direct Source, which, this was put out to a bid that we received in February. We've been doing this for a very long time. We're in a service business, as I've heard the gentleman talk about earlier tonight. There's no way that we would have a 75% markup if we were going out to a fair market bid with 5 other competitors. I mean, our prices would not even have been close to what the market would bear. So there was just a little bit of information missing from what he saw on the internet.
I don't know. We didn't have specifications. And so we're working this thing backwards, and I don't know.
okay, what is the board's pleasure on this? Let me go this way and let's put it to, can I have a motion to approve the copier recommendation? I'm not seeing any motion tonight. Okay. Okay, so,
Steal your papers.
So we'll bring it back at the next meeting.
Well, Ron,
Go ahead. Yes, sir.
could I ask a question?
Sure.
Ben, you've done some good work on this. What is it that Peter needs to, or what would we suggest that Peter provide to us relative to the board being able to make a determinate factor that satisfies the board?
Well, for one, I don't want to hold up the board. If
No.
you're satisfied, that's fine.
Well, nobody made a motion,
It's just
so obviously
the
not.
process was awkward. I didn't see specifications that the district had written for these machines. Instead, I was provided with the machine
Right.
specifications.
Sure.
And so, and in the specifications that I had pulled off the website, it had the sorter and
Sure.
and these other items on it. At least that's the way I read it. Perhaps I misread it, and it included developers. So I don't know. I'm just going from the data that's here, and I'm
Sure.
not able to connect all
Fair
the
enough.
dots.
Sure.
It's odd to me. I appreciate the work that the vendor does in this respect, but it seems backwards. You would expect that the district would do this work and then pull it together.
Well, I also ran some numbers, if we're having a conversation here, and I couldn't tie into the 3% at all. If you took the 3%, and maybe I didn't factor in the profit considerations, I don't know, but I don't know if did you run those as well, Ben? I couldn't tie into the lease life with 3% as the implicit interest rate.
According to this memo, it's not 3%. It's some other percentage.
Well, I was using what I was told.
Right. Well, here it's 5.2%.
But didn't we say 3% at the last meeting?
Right, well,
Well, that's what I was using.
it's a different number.
I know now.
But I couldn't tie back to this number either, and maybe I couldn't do the calculation correctly, so. I don't know, I just don't understand the numbers, so.
Gentlemen, on the fair market value lease rate, what we gave you since the last meeting was, what would the purchase price be? So one of the questions came up, hey, what would it cost us to just buy the whole fleet?
Right.
That number came in at $201,455. The lease rate that we were able to get from the leasing company, if you take that out over a 3-year period, it comes out to, I don't have the total here. Peter's got the total, but it came out to 203,097 is what your total sum payments would be after 3 years. So the total is an additional $2,000 that you would spend versus paying up front. Now, the one thing that isn't factored in there is the 15% residual. And that, as I said at the last meeting, that's your option. You can decide on a machine-by-machine basis whether for 15% of the original purchase price, which is on the spreadsheet, whether it makes sense to buy that inventory 3 years from now. So you can simply choose to return it, or you can buy it for 15%. So as you see, I mean, over the course of 36 months, you're paying only $2,000 more than what you would pay today for a lease versus a purchase. Now, if you chose the $1 buyout, which came up in the last meeting as well, you're talking about $235,000 total investment there. And that delta reflects ownership at the end versus the returning of the equipment.
Yep.
And I also, in the Word document that I provided, one of the other things that came up was, what is this inventory gonna look like in 3 years based on the run rate that you've experienced up until now? So on that document, I've listed out for you what all the totals would be in 3 years.
Yeah, 9%. And it's a tax-free lease, so the market rate is 18%. But that's just me.
Any additional questions? Seeing none. After the discussion, do I have anyone that wants to make a motion? Not seeing any motions, okay.
What?
We'll bring it. What I'm gonna ask is that Ben work with you to resolve these issues, have a face-to-face meeting to have this issue so we can put this to bed at the next meeting. Okay? May I please have a motion to go into I'm sorry, yes, sir.
Before you have the vote.
Yes,
Nobody made a motion.
No one made a motion, I was just asking for one. Come on up and speak.
As you know, for the last few years, I've been begging people to come to the deliberative session and to the town meeting in greater numbers. I've been doing it mostly verbally with one letter, and Mike Brown has been doing it with his writing abilities. I've heard several comments lately that why this isn't growing. It is growing. It got to 202 last year, and but I'd like it to get to 500. And I'd like to present something as to how we think it can be done. And I need to know if you have to put it on the agenda for next meeting, or if I can just come up and I'll be going to a meeting between now and then, and it'll be formalized. And I just want to know how to proceed.
Reed, if you get together with the superintendent, we'll get it on the agenda, but I don't think it's gonna be the next meeting. Based on the stuff that we've moved into it right now, it'll probably be a meeting of the June 17th.
Okay, the June 7th, it's 19th, I think.
June 19th?
And the thing is, that'll be after the school board meeting, the three of you meeting.
Okay.
That's on the 13th, isn't it? Something?
Yes, it is, the
Yeah.
12th.
So it might be advisable to bring it up at that meeting too, because town meeting could be held elsewhere also. It's about changing the venue of the meeting from the cafeteria.
Okay.
And that's an important thing for the three of you to discuss.
Maybe the joint meeting will look on it. I'll mention in my email to Joe that it's something that you'd like to talk about, is talking about how to increase the attendance at the meeting.
Yeah. Okay. You'd rather do it that way than,
I'm just looking at the agenda, we're talking CIP, there's a lot of stuff on that agenda that we're moving along here, and I just don't want the agenda to get too full. Let me talk to the superintendent tomorrow and talk about what this agenda is gonna look like for our next meeting. If we have space, I'll get in touch with you and we can put it on there. I'm not trying to blow it off, I just don't want the meeting to go to 10:30 again, like this one is, and it shouldn't have happened tonight.
okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Let me show you what I need.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we move to non-public session under RSA 91A3, sections 2A through I.
Second.
Roll call.
Aye, Dan Weaver.
Okay, if you're in this room, you're on the air.
Steve, that is, maybe it's just me being a klutz, but that is a little.
I apologize.
Take your books back, yes.
Oh, it is.
Valuable copy.